Chapter 517, Plight of the Huang Family. This one is Jian Chen. I pay my respects to Senior. Jian Chen bowed down to his waist with the utmost respect. This was a saint ruler standing in front of him after all. The eyes to the ancestor of the Huang family were sparkling bright like the moon. As if capable of staring into the center of Jian Chen's heart, his eyes studied Jian Chen with a faint smile and a nod of his head. Welcoming the gaze of the patriarch, Jian Chen suddenly felt as if his entire body was being analyzed and understood by him. In front of the patriarch, Jian Chen may as well have been without clothes or any other object, as nothing was a secret to the patriarch's eyes. The light in the patriarch's eyes quickly receded back into an ordinary one. Spearing forward with conversation, the patriarch praised Jian Chen. You deserve to be called a man of character and astronomical talent. Not only were you able to break through to the Heaven Saint Master realm at your age, you are also not too prideful, not too impatient, and steady as a mountain. To be able to accomplish so much in so little time is very difficult. It is no wonder the Qinhuang kingdom was so easily willing and confident to let such a youngster take up the mantle of an imperial protector. Not only did they see your talent, they saw your personal character and conduct. The ancestor's words caused Jian Chen to be astonished. Even with the high importance Jian Chen had placed on the strength of a saint ruler, he did not expect to have his entire strength be seen through with just his eyes. That strength was too terrifying. Subsequently, Jian Chen felt worried and unsure if the saint ruler would be able to see through the secret that he had no saint weapon and the existence of the azure and violet sword spirits. When he looked at the ancestor's expression, Jian Chen relaxed a bit. That was because the ancestor clearly did not look as though he had seen through everything from Jian Chen. Otherwise, if he knew that Jian Chen had such an unbelievable amount of strength without a saint weapon, then even a saint ruler wouldn't help but feel shocked and would be unable to maintain a calm face like the one he had now. Because the destruction of a saint weapon meant either death or becoming a cripple for a person. This was considered to be an uncontroversial fact, but Jian Chen was a deviation from this. This one feels quite accomplished with the amount of praise from Senior. I am not as outstanding as Senior says. In comparison, this one is nothing and not worth so much praise. Jian Chen cupped his hands together. Although there was a smile on his face, he was neither servile nor overbearing. Hearing this, the ancestor laughed and stroked the beard under his chin with a gentle hand. This old man was only able to get to where I am today after spending 1,300 years worth of time. If I think back to when this old man was your age, I was still dithering around the boundary to become an Earth Saint Master, but I was still not quite there. Compared to you, it is this old man's achievements that are not worth mentioning. If you cultivate for as long as this old man, then you will definitely reach past this old man. At the very least, you will become an entity a layer higher than a saint ruler. Jian Chen had no look of arrogance on his face. Having the memories of 2 lives, he had experienced many things that had honed him. With the great waves and tremendous winds, Jian Chen had lingered between the realms of yin and yang. Compared to the children born and raised within the greenhouse-like family to mature, Jian Chen was completely different. He had long since been mentally fortified by his experiences. Senior likes to joke, I see. The events in the future cannot be so easily dictated by anyone. Although I have several achievements now, the path for the future is still to be taken slowly. One cannot say for certain that this one will reach the world Senior lives in, or if this one will die on the way there. Jian Chen spoke calmly. Hearing this, the ancestor nodded his head in approval. Your words have merit to them. There are many people on the Tianyuan continent, and there are just as many outstanding geniuses. Even among these talents, only a few of them actually become successful. Plenty of them lose their lives on the way or in the cradle of success. The ancestor suddenly stopped speaking to glance impassively at Jian Chen, but there was a faint smile on his face. Well then, let us dispense all of the pleasantries. Jian Chen, do you know why I called you here today? Forgive this one for his ignorance. Please, if the ancestor could enlighten me. Jian Chen spoke. The ancestor stood up. This house is actually quite too small for this. Let us walk outside to speak. With that, the ancestor walked out from his wooden house. Jianshen walked out from the house only to realize that a transparent barrier had somehow been erected in the surrounding area around the mountain peak. The entire mountain peak was enclosed inside so that the howling winds would have no effect on the people inside. Not too far away, the earth element had begun to gather and form a stone table in front of them. The ancestor could be seen already seated on a stone stool. "Come, sit." The ancestor gestured to Jianshen. Jianshen didn't hesitate to sit down at the table. The ancestor took out 2 wine cups and a jade bottle from his space ring before pouring a cup for Jianshen. "This old man has erected a barrier over this area. Not only will our conversation be unhearable from the outside, this entire interior will be invisible as well." Jianshen knew that the ancestor of the Huang family would begin to talk about a serious point and grew extremely solemn himself. But before he could even open his mouth to speak, the ancestor had already beaten him to the punch. "Jianshen, this old man invited you here today to primarily talk about a matter of business with the Qinhuang kingdom. Since you are an imperial protector for them, your status is even higher than that of the king, you represent the Qinhuang kingdom." He spoke. Pondering, Jianshen asked, "What sort of business might senior be talking about?" The ancestor did not reply right away. He instead took a sip of his wine. After a small while, he finally continued, "Jianshen, this old man does not enjoy beating around the bush, so I'll speak honestly. Our Huang family wishes to ally ourselves with the Qinhuang kingdom. If the Qinhuang kingdom is able to help us survive something, then our Huang family will never be able to thank the Qinhuang kingdom enough. Senior, would it be possible to tell us just what circumstances the Huang family is in? Is it related to the Shi family?" Jianshen asked. The ancestor shook his head. "If it was the Shi family, then our Huang family wouldn't be forced back in such a manner. This time it is because of the Hongfu clan." "Hongfu clan? Senior, could this Hongfu clan be even stronger than the Shi family?" Jianshen spoke with a newfound interest. The ancestor nodded his head. "Correct. To be specific, the Hongfu clan is several times stronger than the Shi family. That is because in their clan, they have 2 saint rulers and 2 ruler armaments." "What? 2 saint rulers?" Jianshen was dumbfounded. On the Tianyuan continent, a clan that had 1 saint ruler was already considered one of the best clans, but the Hongfu clan had actually 2 saint rulers. Their strength wasn't too far off from the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Seeing the shocked look on Jianshen's face, the ancestor of the Huang family gave a reassuring smile. "Jianshen, you needn't worry. While the Hongfu clan has 2 saint rulers, their strengths lie upon the 2nd and 3rd layer. Even if they both wielded ruler armaments, this old man could handle the both of them alone." Jianshen was shocked once again. He looked at the ancestor with a newfound light in his eyes. If he could go against 2 saint rulers wielding ruler armaments by himself, then just what level of strength had this ancestor reached? The 4th layer? He had to at least be at the 4th layer. The ancestor continued to speak. "The grievances between our Huang family and the Hongfu clan have long since reached a point of no return. They had started several thousand years ago, and up to even now, our Huang family and their Hongfu clan have been at equivalent strengths almost. Even now, our 2 families would suffer tremendous losses if we were to fight now. Thus, there has never been any conflicts between our 2 sides, but in private, there have been countless clashes that occur on a frequent basis. Even this old man has fought several times with the 2 saint ruler, but it has never been so serious yet. A few years ago, the Hongfu clan and another family began to get close. In addition to having the Yan family draw close to them by use of marriage, they begun to treat our Huang family even more threateningly. Just faintly, they have already started to bring us closer to a battle to the death through an ever-increasing amount of pressure. This was the reason why the offspring of my Huang family had entered the empty space without a barrier during the gathering of the mercenaries. This old man did not use any energy, so I could conserve as much energy as I could in the case that the Hongfu clan and Yan family made a surprise attack. What this old man didn't think of was the fact that while my Huang family was minding their own business, the Shi family would suddenly attack our Huang family. They tried to steal away the ruler armament in our possession, and although this old man has no way to forcibly recall the ruler armament, it would cost some of my vital energy to reclaim it. Without a ruler armament, if the Hongfu clan and Yan family unleashed a surprise attack, even I would not be able to stop their alliance. From this, I can only imagine that if the Shi family did not get roped in by the Hongfu clan, then they had at least reached a secret agreement with each other. The ancestor's face looked helpless. With a sigh, he spoke, "The combination of the Hongfu clan and Yan family is already a considerable amount of pressure to my Huang family. With the added Shi family, my Huang family would have no power to defend ourselves if they all attack together. Thus, my Huang family is desperately looking for an outside power to assist us." Hearing this, Jianchen felt a headache occur. The Huang family was certainly facing an unhappy situation. The Hongfu clan had 2 saint rulers that the ancestor of the Huang family was still able to fend off with difficulty. With the Yan and Shi family participating, there would be another 2 saint rulers added to the mix as enemies. With the ancestor by himself, he was clearly no match for the 4. Jianchen was extremely clear on the motive for the ancestor wishing for an alliance with the Qin Huang kingdom. There was nothing else but his desire to borrow the power of the Qin Huang kingdom to stabilize his Huang family. Jianchen hesitated for a moment. "Senior, this is quite the important matter. Please forgive this one for not being the one to give a response." Jianchen really didn't dare give a response to something like this. If he did, then it would be very possible that the Qin Huang kingdom would earn another 2 strong enemies. Although the Qin Huang kingdom had 4 saint rulers, 2 enemy saint rulers was still quite a foe to the kingdom. Furthermore, there had been a sour taste left in Jianchen's mouth after the events with the sect of Dragon and Tiger. To him, the 2 saint rulers of the Qin Huang kingdom had personally come to fight with the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Even if the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger didn't fight, he would have to pay a very hefty price, but the final conclusion had been completely outside of Jianchen's expectations. Not only did no fight occur, the 2 saint rulers from the Qin Huang kingdom had unexpectedly left with such serious expressions. This had made Jianchen uneasy and slightly concerned in his heart. Although he didn't know what the elder sect master had said to the 2 saint rulers, it surely had to do with the Qin Huang kingdom if it had stopped the 2 of them dead in their tracks. Thus, at this crucial moment, Jianchen wasn't willing to make the Qin Huang kingdom a lightning rod for additional troubles. Chapter 518, The True Strength of a Saint Ruler, with Jianchen declining to represent the Qin Huang kingdom in a decision to ally with the Huang family, the ancestor of the Huang family side. He had not felt this was an unexpected decision. He even predicted that Jianchen would decline. Prior to this, he had been clinging on to that sliver of hope, but now, Jianchen had essentially extinguished the final piece of hope in the ancestor's heart. "Senior, I am truly apologetic. This matter involves far too many players for me to make a decision." Jianchen spoke apologetically. From the ancestor's face, Jianchen could see that the ancestor's shoulders were heavily weighed down by the pressure about his Huang family. "This old man can understand your troubles. The Qin Huang kingdom is one of the 8 great powers, but they cannot belittle any single saint ruler level expert like so. Even more so, they cannot offend 4 saint rulers at the same time. If it were me that stood in your shoes, I wouldn't agree either." The ancestor sighed. Jianchen hesitated for a moment. "Senior, although I cannot involve the Qin Huang kingdom in this myself, if there is ever something I can do, then I will do my best to help the Huang family." Jianchen had been honest and wasn't lying for the sake of face, so the ancestor felt moved. Smiling, he said, "Jianchen, this old man understands your intent. A fight between saint rulers is something a heaven saint master cannot interfere with. Even with your excellent talent as one of the strongest on the continent, you wouldn't be an exception to this. If you work hard and cultivate, in the future you will definitely exceed this old man. Thus, you should do your best to increase your strength. When you become a saint ruler, we will see if my Huang family will still need your help or not. Still hesitating, Jianshen replied, Senior, this one knows that an individual at the Saint Ruler realm is extremely strong. Back at the sect of Dragon and Tiger, I was educated on the very tip of the iceberg of a Saint Ruler's strength, but the clear level of it is still quite fuzzy to me. This one wonders if Senior would be able to allow me to experience a Saint Ruler's strength. This one would like to try his best to see just how big of a gap there is between me and a Saint Ruler and if I can defend myself from one. The reason why Jianshen had said these words was simply to increase his knowledge on the strength of a Saint Ruler. The Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger had already expressed his interest in the origin energy of the Azure and Violet Sword spirits. The Saint Ruler was afraid of Jianshen's identity as an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom, but this did not mean he was not afraid to act in secret against Jianshen. As long as he could clearly understand the exact strength of a Saint Ruler, then Jianshen would be able to find a plan to deal with a Saint Ruler should one attack him in the future. Jianshen, the difference between a Saint Ruler and a Heaven Saint Master is even further than you can imagine. A Saint Ruler has already understood the mysteries of the world to the point where each movement they take embodies the energy of the world. As the proverbs say, all are ants beneath a Saint Ruler. In front of a Saint Ruler, a Heaven Saint Master is indeed as weak as an ant. If you truly wish to see a Saint Ruler's strength, then this old man will let you satisfy your curiosity. The ancestor spoke. At the last word, a barrier suddenly appeared and imprisoned Jianshen within it. Jianshen, this is the barrier that only a Saint Ruler can create. Containing the laws of the world, it is connected with the world itself intrinsically. One can say the interior of this barrier is an entirely different space. Although a barrier is unbearably weak toward another Saint Ruler, even a Heaven Saint Master is unable to break through this. Aside from the power of the barrier being depleted, a Heaven Saint Master has no chance of shattering it. The ancestor spoke. The ancestor's words had clearly entered Jianshen's ears, but even after hearing them, Jianshen had remained unconvinced and immediately brought out the origin energy of the sword spirits. A rich amount of an azure and violet glow could be seen gathering and condensing into the form of a sword before Jianshen chopped down at the barrier. It's no use. This old man's barrier is something that a Heaven Saint Master cannot shatter apart by himself unless the barrier runs out of power. This barrier is the energy of another domain, one that a Heaven Saint Master cannot even think of touching. The ancestor smiled faintly, completely sure that Jianshen would not be able to split apart the barrier he had personally put down. At that moment, the origin energy made contact with the barrier. With a pop sound, the barrier was popped by Jianshen's sword as if it had been a giant balloon filled with air. After the sword had pricked through it, the barrier completely disappeared from sight. The expression of the ancestor immediately went rigid. Staring blankly at where the barrier had dissipated, a look of disbelief crossed his face. Impossible, you actually broke the barrier I put down. The ancestor spoke with a rather crestfallen and shocked voice. He quickly recovered himself, however. Staring curiously at the origin energy in Jianshen's hand, he exclaimed, "What a powerful energy." Seeing the expression on the ancestor's face, Jianshen couldn't help but have a small smile on his face. Cupping his hands, he spoke, "Senior, please advise me." Standing up from his stone stool, the ancestor's eyes began to sparkle with a bright light. Firmly, he spoke to Jianshen, "Jianshen, a barrier is just one of the many tools of a Saint Ruler, but it is not a part of a Saint Ruler's attacking strength. Right now I will show you the difference between a Saint Ruler and Heaven Saint Master. You may attack as you please." Separating himself from the stone table, Jianshen's right hand began to sparkle with an even brighter light of azure and violet from the origin energy. As if two serpents or yin-yang fish, they coiled around his arm, but they never touched one another. Concentrating heavily on the Saint Ruler in front of him, Jianshen had no intention to hold back. All of the origin energy within his body had been brought out to its maximum amount. His right hand began to shake violently as the amount of power coursing through his arm had transformed it into a blur of mirror images that shot toward the ancestor with blinding speed. With only a flash of azure and violet, the origin energy reached 3 inches to the Saint Ruler's chest before stopping. The origin energy found itself unable to advance another fraction of an inch forward. Jian Chen blanched in surprise. His feet slid forward in an attempt to use his entire strength to push the origin energy forward, but he was powerless despite his attempts. The origin energy was simply unable to go even a small inch forward. Jian Chen's eyes flashed as he decided to take back his sword. With a flickering of his body, he circled around the ancestor's body to attack from the back, but the results had been the same. The origin energy stopped moving 3 inches away from the ancestor's body. It was unable to progress anymore. Just what in the world is this? Jian Chen was extremely curious. This was the very first time he had seen the methods of a saint ruler, but even now, Jian Chen was unable to understand it. Jian Chen, you now understand just how large of a difference there is between a heaven saint master and a saint ruler. Even if a saint ruler remains motionless, there is nothing a heaven saint master can do to injure them. The ancestor chuckled. Senior, would it be possible to tell me how you managed to do this? Although he was unable to harm the ancestor at all, Jian Chen was not discouraged and even asked a question with some curiosity. The ancestor turned around to teach and explain to Jian Chen with a smile, that is the mystery of space. Mystery of space? Jian Chen murmured to himself in a low voice. His eyebrows furrowed together in deep thought. The ancestor continued to explain, a heaven saint master can control the energy of the world in ways that can enable them to fly through the air. A saint ruler has comprehended the mysteries of the world can initially use the energy of space. I was using this spatial energy just then. In the eyes of others, you are only 3 inches away from hitting me, but what you may not know is that in the eyes of an observer of these 3 inches, they are actually comprised of several kilometers. Depending on the level of comprehension on space by a saint ruler, this distance can be infinitesimally extended. Unless you can transverse this space or perhaps break through this space, there is no way you can harm an entity of a saint ruler. Space, so this is the energy of space. Jian Chen made a realization. His understanding of a saint ruler had increased even more now. Space was a gap that was still too far for him to cross just yet. You understand the distance between a heaven saint master and a saint ruler now, I take it? The ancestor spoke in a teacherly manner toward Jian Chen. I understand now. The mysteries of the world are indeed massive if they can control even space itself. With that, how wouldn't a saint ruler be able to fly at a tremendous speed? Jian Chen's face had grown serious as he spoke. Correct. The ancestor replied, a saint ruler who has just comprehended the mystery of space is indeed fast. For an individual with a deeper understanding of it, a single step of theirs can transverse several thousand kilometers. In today's time, there are only a handful of men who are capable of this. Jian Chen's eyebrows knit together tightly. He thought about that saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger. If the speed of a saint ruler was that fast, then it would be fruitless to even attempt to run away from one. Although Jian Chen wasn't sure if the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger would attack him, he couldn't lower his guard. He had to remain wary. Afterward, Jian Chen and the ancestor began to chat before Jian Chen finally left the mountain peak to go back to the villa by himself. Fourth Master, you've returned so quickly. As soon as Jian Chen descended down into the villa, the 2 elders Feng and Yun flew up to receive him as if they were all good friends. Jian Chen smiled. This one and the ancestor have already finished our talks and now it is time for me to return to the Jessen Kingdom. Many thanks to the 2 seniors and the Huang family for having me. Hearing this, the 2 elders gave each other a look. Concern could be seen as wrinkles across their foreheads. Elder Feng spoke, Fourth Master, why leave so quickly? Come stay a while. There is no other choice, I have a group of friends waiting for me back home. I cannot just so blatantly leave them all on the side. There is still some matters I need to take care of with them. Fourth Master, it is seldom that you come by the Huang family, why not first see the young miss? Elder Feng spoke. Jian Chen hesitated as the memories of his days with Huang Wan suddenly appeared in his mind. He hadn't seen her in a long time, so there was willingness to see her again. Fine then. It is indeed rare to come by here. I'll go see Miss Huang Wan then. Chapter 519. The feelings of Huang Er afterward. Elders Feng Yun led Jian Chen down to the villas of the Huang family without any obstructions. There were many people who recognized the two elders on the way and bowed in respect to them. Clearly, the two of them held quite high positions in the Huang family. The villas of the Huang family were quite large. The three of them walked side by side with a smile on their faces as well. This sight caused everyone who saw the youth to be quite curious, and they began to guess at Jian Chen's identity. After walking with the two elders through a villa, the three of them finally reached their destination where a two-story pavilion could be seen. Fourth Master, this is the chamber of our young miss. She has stipulated that should the fourth master arrive, walking in directly would be fine. Elder Feng gave a meaningful stare and smile while Elder Yun stood on the other side with a similar expression. Jian Chen stared at the pavilion in front of him without paying attention to the expressions on both elders' faces. After a slight moment of hesitation, he finally stepped toward the door. Pushing it open, Jian Chen then walked into the building. The first floor of the pavilion was a very expansive lounge. Despite it being spotlessly clean, it was vacant and devoid of any single person, but at the end of the lounge was a wooden staircase that led to the second floor. Hesitating again, Jian Chen slowly stepped toward the staircase and up to the second floor. Upon his arrival, a sweet-smelling scent wafted into his nose. Breathing in, he suddenly felt like he was intoxicated and had his mind stripped away from him. This was a scent that would make you indulge yourself without restraint. Jian Chen took in a deep breath of the fragrant air, and after taking it in, he couldn't help but sigh, what an enchanting scent. Jian Chen had not spoken out loud, but in this quiet pavilion, it may as well be a clap of thunder that no one would be able to ignore. Jian Chen studied his environment only to find that this room had been decorated with comfort in mind. The interior wasn't grand in appearance, but there were several things that a woman would own and plenty of beautiful decorations in the room. It was enough for anyone that had come here for the first time to be able to make an accurate guess that the owner of this room was a female. In the center of the room, there was a neat and tidy bed. This bed was quite small and was only capable of holding one person on it to sleep on. On the yellow bed was a yellow blanket that had been folded several times with all sorts of marks left behind. It was clear to see that this bed had not been touched for some time. To the side of the bed was a single window. At this moment, there was a woman whose back quietly faced Jian Chen as she stared out the window. As if spellbound, this woman stared at the scenery outside the window. She wore a black dress with her black hair drooped down. This combination of clothes and appearance had harmonized with each other perfectly, inducing a feeling of grace. Although her face could not be seen, her beautiful stature was more than enough for anyone to guess that the face of the owner would be beautiful as well. Jian Chen's eyes fixed themselves onto the back of this woman. Although he wasn't able to see her face, the figure was quite familiar to him, and his mind had already seemed to have made a verdict on who this woman was. It was Huang Wan, who he hadn't seen in a very long time. Staring quietly at Huang Wan's back, Jian Chen's lips couldn't help but curl into a smile. That was because he had suddenly thought about the first time he and Huang Wan had met. Miss Huang Wan, it has been a long time since we last saw each other. Compared to then, you have more grace now it seems. Jian Chen spoke with a smile still on his face. Hearing this, Huang Wan's black dress-wearing figure began to tremble. Her teeth began to nibble at her lower lip in hesitation before seemingly coming to a conclusion. Finally, she turned around slowly. She looked to Jian Chen's handsome face with a complex look of happiness. It had been more than half a year since they had last met, and Huang Wan's beauty had indeed grown since then. Her beauty now was still capable of befalling a kingdom and left no room for argument. Even the fish and the birds would be captivated by her, and the moon would hide itself behind the clouds in shame. Huang Wan's limpid autumn eyes stared at Jian Chen as if lost in thought. Her mouth slowly opened as she asked, "Should I be calling you Jian Chen or Changyang Shangtian?" Smiling confidently, Jianchen replied, "Just call me Jianchen. I rather like that name. The name, Changyang Shangtian, is something only my family uses. Besides my family, I am Jianchen." Huang Wan took several light steps toward Jianchen at her leisure. At an extremely close range, her eyes were still full of complexity. Even now, in her mind, Huang Wan was unable to even think back to when she and Jianchen had first met or when they had met again in the empty space during the gathering of the mercenaries. This was the very first time Jianchen had ever seen Huang Wan have such a look in her eyes. Sensing that something was off, he gave an awkward smile. "Miss Huang Wan, are you all right?" As soon as Jianchen had finished speaking, Huang Wan had abruptly spread open her arms to hug Jianchen. Her entire body stuck close to him. Her slender but exceptionally powerful arms had already pulled Jianchen close to her. This sudden development had startled Jianchen so much that he became mute with shock. For a half moment, Jianchen hadn't responded to her. As far as he knew, even though he and Huang Wan had gone through a period of trouble together, the relationship between the two had never reached such a close and intimate level like this. When Jianchen had finally recollected himself, he could feel the lovely but tightly clenched arms of Huang Wan still wrapped around his body. His thoughts had instantly descended into chaos. With Huang Wan suddenly hugging him like this, the mentally unprepared Jianchen was at a loss for what to do or what would happen next. "Miss Huang Wan, this," Jianchen swallowed. Even though he wanted to say something, he suddenly found himself unable to say anything. It was the two soft but firm sensations he felt pressed against his chest that made Jianchen's heart beat with an unprecedented level of violentness. "Jianchen, I wanted to hug you, so let me hug you for a while, okay?" Huang Wan's voice could be heard right next to his ears. Like the soft hum of a mosquito, her sweet-sounding voice gently blew by Jianchen's ear, allowing him to feel his ear go both numb and ticklish. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath in an attempt to forcibly calm down. Gathering his thoughts, he finally managed to ask, "Miss Huang Wan. What is the meaning of this?" This time, there was no response from Huang Wan, who instead chose to continue hugging Jianchen tightly. Her entire body seemed as if it was stuck to him. Her head was next to Jianchen's shoulder, and both of her eyes were closed shut. Her entire state of mind had descended into a wondrous sensation she had never experienced before. Quietly enjoying this sensation of the mind and soul, her mind was filled with joy. Right now, in her mind, Huang Wan was replaying the scene from when she had first met Jianchen. She remembered that time the two of them had once shared. "You scoundrel, to think that you would peek at me taking a bath, I will definitely kill you." "Hold on, miss. This was just a misunderstanding, I had no intentions of peeking on the miss taking a bath." She remembered that time in the empty space during the gathering of the mercenaries. "Bastard, if you're a man, don't even think about running away. I don't wish to stand around to be your live shooting target, I'm not that foolish." She remembered that time when they fought against Shurxiangran. "Scoundrel. If you help me deal with them, I'll write off our differences." She remembered that time when Jianchen had been crushed by Shurxiangran's seal of Treasure Mountain. "You scoundrel, how could you be this stupid? I told you to run, but you stood there like an idiot. An idiot's death. That's what you deserve." She remembered that time when they were about to go on their own separate ways. "Did you not want to know my name? You never told me, how would I know it? Did it not occur to you to ask?" Even now, she could clearly remember these memories. Her own heart felt as if she had lost something when she had first parted from Jianchen. At the same time, she had felt happy when Jianchen had been with her. At that time, Huang Wan remembered how she had first felt about this person. Truly, she hated him to the bone. She wanted nothing more than to scalp his skin, tear his muscles, drink his blood, and eat his flesh. At that time, her body had been seen by this man, a man that was both very weak and a stranger. Huang Wan had been left with a very deep impression of Jianchen for that reason. It was only when she returned to the villa that she had brooded over her feelings and tried to forget that it had ever happened. However, the feelings she had for Jian Chen had only made her feel even more hurt. Later, when she participated in the gathering of the mercenaries, she had came across Jian Chen once again in the empty space by chance. Although Jian Chen's sudden explosion of strength had startled her, she still felt some animosity for him. This animosity had permeated her entire body down to her bones. It hadn't been alleviated since her first meeting with him. That was why the two of them had started to fight. However, when Xianguan had attacked her, she had fallen into a predicament. At that moment, she had no other choice but to cry for help to Jian Chen for the sake of protecting her ruler armament. Though she didn't believe that Jian Chen would help her from her problem, an escape was hopeless for her since there had been many experts aligned with Xianguan. With no other option to choose from, she could only resign herself to feeding the dead horse some medicine. However, despite the injuries Jian Chen had, his fighting strength had been overwhelming and far beyond her expectations. Not only did he defend himself, he was able to kill the Earth Saint Masters with Xianguan and reduce the pressure on her. Then, they had even managed to escape from that predicament with the two of them uniting to defend themselves from Xianguan. After these series of events, Huang Luan's perspective of Jian Chen had begun to change bit by bit. The two of them had no other choice but to stay with one another until the tournament had ended after they scraped together their strength to fight Xianguan. In this period of contact with Jian Chen, Huang Luan's understanding of him had grown deeper and deeper. Whether it was his influence, his appearance, or even his moral character, she was not too picky to find fault in any of them. He was even strong as well. His good attributes slowly had Huang Luan changing her mind about Jian Chen, and she gradually threw away the hatred she felt for him. Especially since that first awkward meeting was really just a coincidence. Jian Chen possessed a handsome charm that could sway any woman under the heavens. Combined with confident and free nature of his super talent, the amount of power he was endowed with, that made him brave, and his intelligence in the face of any enemy strike, all of these superior qualities of his gave him an unbelievable allure. He could even be said to be the shining white knight of any woman on the continent. When she had thrown away the prejudice she felt toward Jian Chen, she discovered all of his strong points when they were traveling together. Unbeknownst to her, Jian Chen had left a deep imprint in her mind. It was during that time that Huang Luan had felt something murky in her mind. From then to the time where she had split with Jian Chen after the gathering of the mercenaries, this murky sensation had gradually grown clear in her mind. When she had returned to the villa, this particular feeling had grown extremely fierce. In the end, this line of thought had seized control of her thinking, had begun to replay memories of when she was with Jian Chen frequently. This feeling hadn't been lost even after she had split ways with Jian Chen. Instead, it had been like a poison that spread through her body. It reached deeper and became even more serious to the point where she could no longer free herself from her thoughts. Chapter 520. Determination. Huang Luan held Jian Chen tightly in a quiet but comforting embrace. No words had been voiced, but the feelings and thoughts that had welled up inside her had finally exploded out. Just like a volcano erupting after a period of buildup, the resulting momentum was both fierce and hard to control. Jian Chen was dumbstruck. His entire body had gone rigid without moving for a long period of time. Even with memories from two worlds, he never remembered being hugged by a female before, so this was the very first time he had experienced the warmth of one. This was not a woman with a beauty that could bring the downfall of a city, but a woman with a beauty that could bring an entire kingdom to its knees. Time in this dubiously quiet place slowly passed by. A beautiful moment was fleeting, this one was no exception. Huang Luan and Jian Chen had remained together for an unknown amount of time before Huang Luan finally loosened her grip on Jian Chen. Slowly standing up, Huang Luan looked up at Jian Chen with her bashful eyes. Then, tilting her head down, she slowly began to smooth out the wrinkles in her messy robes. Both of her cheeks had gone red in the prominent display of a shy girl. This appearance of hers caused Jian Chen to be dumbfounded. From the very beginning of when he came to know Huang Luan, she had given Jian Chen the feeling of being icy cold and habitually silent. There was never a time where she had revealed such a shy expression. Is this the same Huang Wan I first came to know? Jianchen couldn't help but question himself. In his mind, the Huang Wan he knew and the one in front of him were two completely different people. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and was hit with the sweet-smelling fragrance coming from Huang Wan's body once more. His entire mind had been intoxicated by it. This scent combined with her throwing her arms around him was as good as a bewitching medicine concocted against a man. If it were not for Jianchen being a heaven sent master with impressive willpower and an impressive mind, it would be very likely that he would have lost all self-control. Slowly bringing himself back to a calm, Jianchen stared at Huang Wan with a complex stare. Hesitantly, he opened his mouth to ask, "Miss Huang Wan, are you all right?" Huang Wan shook her head slightly and slowly brought her head up to look at Jianchen. After a brief period of time, the expression on her face finally returned to normal. Although there was still the remains of a blush on her cheeks, it enhanced her charm. Seeing the handsome and stalwart face of Jianchen, Huang Wan's eyes gradually reverted back to a blur. A face like his was like receiving an increased dosage of yang qi after half a year of not having any. Jianchen felt goosebumps arise on his skin from Huang Wan's stare. Unconsciously, he retreated several steps as if he was afraid of this look. Jianchen wasn't a naive 3-year-old, he knew just what that stare meant in Huang Wan's eyes. This stare left him with an extreme amount of trouble in his heart. He was already shouldering plenty of worries. Although it seemed that Jianchen was a person with a far future, he was still just a heaven-sent master in strength while also being an imperial protector for the Qinhuang kingdom. Jianchen was fully aware of how much pressure the future had in store for him, so today, he wanted to spend all of his efforts on improving his own strength. There was simply no time to even think about settling down. Jianchen. From our departure in Mercenary City to now half a year later, have you thought about me? Huang Wan whispered to Jianchen with a soft voice. Right now in terms of emotions, Huang Wan was far more honest than before. She was no longer the secretive, daredevil, and heroine figure from before. Compared to Yu, they were as different as black and white in personality. Jianchen hadn't thought that Huang Wan would actually ask a question like this. In his period of distraction, Huang Wan's temperament suddenly flared up in a way that Jianchen felt contrasted quite heavily with her usual icy expression. Jianchen quickly recovered, and still slightly stupefied, he answered, "I have." Hearing this, Huang Wan's face broke into a happy smile. Unknown to her, Jianchen's thoughts of her had been completely different than how she had thought of him. When Jianchen had said that he had thought of her, he had only thought of the occasional times where he thought of the past, but there was no longing in them. Yet, this smile of Huang Wan did not last long. Her face quickly grew dark, a concentrated amount of sadness and worry mixed into it. Seeing this expression of hers, Jianchen disregarded the abnormality of Huang Wan's previous actions. Jianchen's heart dropped. He could already tell that Huang Wan had perhaps come across some sort of trouble. "Miss Huang Wan, are you fine?" Jianchen asked again. When Huang Wan had first hugged Jianchen, he had a strange feeling in his heart. Now this worried expression of Huang Wan had brought him to an indescribable level of anxiety. Right now, Jianchen himself wasn't sure if this anxiety was because of Huang Wan or not. Huang Wan's reluctant eyes lingered on Jianchen's handsome face and the chest she had buried herself against. With a soft sigh, she slowly turned back to the window so she could stare out of it with a look of despair. During the split second Huang Wan had turned around, Jianchen had caught a glimpse of a teardrop beginning to fall from Huang Wan's eyes. Jianchen's heart had immediately grown heavy for some reason. He didn't know why, but the sight of Huang Wan caused his own heart to hurt. Just faintly, he could sense that something terrible had happened to Huang Wan. After a long while, Huang Wan finally opened her mouth. "Jianchen. Did you know, my father has already betrothed me to the second young master of the Huanggu clan." Huang Wan's voice was weak and without strength. Pain was easy to detect in her voice, and just a slight sob could be heard as well. Jian Shen was startled to hear this. Although not a single woman had ever crashed their way into Jian Shen's mind before, Jian Shen's heart couldn't help but grow heavy when he heard Huang Yuan speak. Perhaps it was because of Huang Yuan's current state, but Jian Shen's heart had begun to bubble with a strange sensation. He certainly did not wish for a beautiful woman to be betrothed to a man she did not love. Restraining the emotions in his mind, Jian Shen asked, Huanggu clan? Could this be another strong clan that can rival your Huang family in strength? The Huanggu clan is incomparably strong in comparison to my Huang family. The Huanggu clan is a family that has stayed in isolation similar to my Huang family, the Shi family, the Jie clan, and the Duge family. Families that have stayed in isolation like ours have several thousand years' worth of history, like a saint ruler appearing from the family. They also have unbelievable strength. Huang Yuan explained. Isolated families? Does that mean every saint ruler has come from a clan or family that hid itself away? Jian Shen asked curiously. That's not it. A family in isolation and a family that isn't are different. To be called an isolated family is to be in an isolated state and to not have contact with the outside world. Only by doing that can a family be said to be isolated. Our Huang family, for example, has been stationed deep within the mountains for many years without many of our disciples exploring the outside world. That has led to only a small amount of people knowing who we are. The other isolated families are like this as well. I heard about what happened with the saint ruler's skeleton from Uncle Feng and Uncle Yun. If it weren't for the fact that the Qiangan kingdom had found and leaked the news of a saint ruler's skeleton to us, our Huang family would never have stepped foot out into the outside world unless it was something important. On the outside, there is still many other strong powers that overwhelm those isolated families like mine. For example, the 8 great powers and the 3 great empires. There are also the ancient clans whose strength outstrips the isolated families and are a part of everyday life where they are located. Among the isolated families, there are only an extremely small few that can even compare in strength to the 8 great powers or the ancient families. As for the 3 great empires, we are still an era behind. Only the mysterious ancient families would be able to contend with them. Jian Shen felt like he was another step closer to understanding the strength of an isolated family after Huang Yuan explained it to him. However, he hadn't thought that above these isolated families would be the even more gigantic ancient clans. How strong are these ancient clans? Jian Shen asked curiously. You cannot even imagine. Huang Yuan spoke. I've only read about the ancient clans in the ancient records of my Huang family. I've never heard anyone talk about them before though, so I only know that these ancient families have existed for tens of thousands of years and more. Although they've existed on the continent, no one knows where. The records had it written that unless something major happens on the Tianyuan continent, these ancient clans won't appear at all. That is because they truly are clans that lives in isolation. I had no idea that the waters of the Tianyuan continent would be that deep. Jian Shen spoke. His perspective of the Tianyuan continent had changed quite a bit. Along with the progression of his strength, his domain of understanding had increased as well. In the beginning, he had only been at Wake City to hunt for monster cores to cultivate. A lowly third-rate city where great saint masters were considered far and few and earth saint masters to be the apex of experts with the power to call the wind and summon the rain. As for heaven saint masters, whether it was the Blue Wind Kingdom or the Jessen Kingdom, they were highly respected almost like gods. Heaven saint masters represented a kingdom's strongest source of power, and in a war, an individual like a heaven saint master was the same as several million elite soldiers. Now that he had came into contact with a major family like the Huang family, Jian Shen felt as if he had stepped into a whole new domain where the pinnacle of power was no longer a heaven saint master. There was an even higher level, the saint rulers who comprehended the mysteries of the world. A heaven saint master was nothing more than a median of strength. Jian Shen tilted his head down to think, Miss Huang Yuan, I've heard of the predicament your Huang family faces from your ancestor. Your betrothment to the Huanggu clan is surely because the Huang family wishes to tie the Huanggu family behind your family banner. Your guess is correct. Although it seems quite calm and quiet on the surface of our family, the core disciples are all aware of how bad the predicament is for our family. If we do not find any outside help, I'm afraid the remaining days for our Huang family will be numbered. The hatred between the Huang and the Hongfu clan has gone on for generations now. There is no other way to resolve this bitter hatred now. From our two families, one of us has to die. With the power of the Hongfu clan, they can control our Huang family now. It is only by uniting with the Huanggu family that we stand a chance against them. They will think twice about attack, and I will be offered to the Huanggu family as the only present. Huang Wan spoke. Jian Shen had nothing to say after Huang Wan spoke. He just stood there in hesitation for a long time. His eyes sparkled with a light that seemed like some sort of internal conflict. After a while, Jian Shen bit his lower lip and finally thought of an idea. If I am able to find some help for your Huang family, would that be enough for your betrothment to the Huanggu family to be annulled? Huang Wan's body shook violently for a moment before slowly turning to meet Jian Shen. Looking at the earnest face of Jian Shen, Huang Wan's own face did not have a happy smile on it. Instead, there was a helpless and mourning expression. Jian Shen, I know that you are the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom. Presumably you have not been one for long either. That means your position within the kingdom is still unstable as well. This betrothment was the proposal of my father and has the support of the ancestor. The two of us alone are unable to do anything, so it is best you not get involved. Otherwise, there will be even more trouble for the Qinhuang kingdom, and the other men of power within the kingdom will no longer agree to let you do as you please. Huang Wan's face had grown helpless beyond helpless. Both eyes looked at Jian Shen with a shallow smile. Actually, to be able to hug you at this moment and leave behind my fragrance on you is more than enough for me. Chapter 521. 5,000-year-old saint ruler Jian Shen's eyes gained a determined light to them. Huang Wan, don't worry. I, Jian Shen, will exhaust my entire efforts to help you. You won't be betrothed to a man you do not love. Jian Shen's words were firm and decisive. There was resolution in his voice and a strong conviction in himself. When Huang Wan heard him, her heart immediately felt nice and warm as it pulsated with emotions. In the end, she couldn't help but hug Jian Shen tightly once again. Her entire body began to shake from her spasmodic sobbing. In the silent moment of crying, tears could be seen flowing down her face. Jian Shen, I feel satisfied enough with those words. As I thought, I've always been in your heart, haven't I? Huang Wan spoke through her sobs with a gentle voice filled with emotions. Jian Shen said nothing and instead chose to hug Huang Wan tightly. This was a problem he found difficult to answer and simply had no time to even ponder it. Continuing, Huang Wan spoke, Jian Shen, this union between the Huang family and the Huanggu family cannot be changed. You shouldn't waste your time with this, it's useless. The Qinhuang kingdom won't be in favor for you to interfere either. Huang Wan's voice was filled with sorrow. From the touching appearance of the two, it seemed as if they were a happily married couple on the verge of being broken apart while they tried their best to find a way to resist. Gently taking Huang Wan's arm off of himself, Jian Shen replied, the situation has not yet reached a situation where it cannot be saved. Don't worry, I will do my best to help you away from this abyss of suffering. I will go speak with your ancestor. With that said, Jian Shen wasted no time and turned around to leave Huang Wan's place of residence. She made no move to stop him either and only stared blankly at the retreating back of Jian Shen. A soft look was in her eyes as tears slowly stole away from her eyelids and trailed down her beautiful face, a face that could bring a kingdom to its knees. Jian Shen did not stay long at Huang Wan's pavilion. Not even an hour later, he walked out from the pavilion, but the elders Feng and Yun were nowhere to be seen. A white-robed, middle-aged man had been walking toward Huang Wan's pavilion from far away. When he saw Jian Shen walking out from it, he called out from a long distance away, you must be the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom. The man spoke with a friendly smile and cordial tone. Jian Shen looked at the middle-aged man. He looked to be an earth saint master in strength, but his imposing presence that brought forth dignity from it overwhelmed the area with his hegemonial air. Although the man was only an Earth Saint Master in strength, Jianchen could think of no reason to feel any contempt for him and cupped his hands in greeting instead. This one is Jianchen. Receiving a polite response from an imperial protector like Jianchen to an Earth Saint Master like him, the middle-aged man showed an approving light in his eyes. The smile on his face grew even warmer as he cupped his hands back in salute. This one is the family head of the Huang family, Huang Qinglan. Huang is my daughter, which brings the topic to mind. It seems Huang and the imperial protector have quite the history. Upon hearing that this middle-aged man was actually Huang Wan's father, Jianchen revealed a surprised look in his eyes. Though, he quickly recovered and smiled. So you are the head of the Huang family, it is nice to meet you. Imperial Protector, the previous representative for the Huang family was my grandfather. When he went into isolation behind the mountains, he was unable to greet you. If we have slighted you, then please forgive us. Allow me to bring you to the Jade Cloud Pavilion. We've already prepared a feast for the Imperial Protector. The other 5 honored guests from the Qinhuang Kingdom are already there. We are just waiting for the Imperial Protector. Huang Qinglan smiled. Jianchen hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. Lord Huang, this one truly apologizes, but this one has an important matter to discuss with the senior at the top of the mountain peak. For that, I cannot accompany the Lord, please forgive me. Upon hearing mention of the senior on top of the mountain, Huang Qinglan thought to the ancestor and immediately grew apologetic and venerable. If it is so, then I won't delay the Imperial Protector's time any longer. Goodbye then. Jianchen spoke before flying into the air to travel to the mountain. Seeing Jianchen disappear into the sky, Huang Qinglan displayed a look of undisguised admiration and envy in his eyes. Muttering to himself, he said, who would have known that in so few years, Jianchen would reach the realm of a heaven saint master. Truly a sight that makes any yearn and envy. After speaking his laments, Huang Qinglan continued on his path toward the small pavilion, but when he passed by the spot where Jianchen had stood, his body came to a halting stop. Sniffing the leftover fragrance in the air, Huang Qinglan suddenly let out a drawn-out sigh. This is the scent of essence of orchid. I did not think that Huang would actually be willing to use it for Jianchen. Huang Qinglan displayed a look of helplessness on his face. The essence of orchid was a type of fragrance that wasn't very well known to the common populace of the Tianyuan continent, but the majority of the females knew about it. In the eyes of the females, the essence of orchid was a symbol of pure love, the sacred flower for depicting love. A woman could only use this essence once in her entire life. Using this on the man the woman loved represented that she wholeheartedly fell for him and her feelings would never change. When any single woman used this essence on a man, it illustrated the fact that the woman was prepared to give everything she owned to that man, including her chastity. That was because the essence of orchid was a natural medicine that would confound the senses and evoke the most primal desires of man. Huang Qinglan never thought she would be willing to use the essence of orchid on him in the short amount of time they knew each other. This was truly out of his expectations. There was nothing else Huang Qinglan could do but sigh and continue to sigh. Jianchen was truly a superior candidate. He was such a superior candidate that Huang Qinglan wouldn't even be able to find a fault with him even if he tried. Jianchen was nearly perfect, but the future of the Huang family was in imminent peril. Therefore Huang Wan had no choice but to be the expendable victim, betrothed to the Huanggu family without any power to choose who she would love. Huang Qinglan walked into the small pavilion and up to the second floor. The entire room was filled with that essence of orchid, leaving him no choice but to shake his head helplessly. Then, looking to the tear-stained face of his daughter, his heart began to feel unwell. Huang Qinglan opened his mouth. He wanted to speak some words of comfort to his daughter, but when he opened his mouth to speak, he realized that there were no words he could say to comfort her. Using a yellow handkerchief to wipe at her tears, Huang Wan turned her back to face Huang Qinglan. Father, your daughter wishes to be by herself. Seeing the icy demeanor of his daughter, Huang Qinglan sighed to himself. Huang, your father knows your heart holds only Jianchen. You are right, Jian Chen is a superior man in every way to the second master of the Huanggu family except in background. If it were any other time, your father would be happy to have you wed to him, but in this time of peril for the Huang family, you know just as well as I do. This choice we chose was never one we were able to select from. His daughter said nothing, and the father no longer wished to remain in this orchid-smelling room any longer. Huanger, your father doesn't wish to bother you. Do calm yourself well and properly. Jian Chen came back to the mountain peak where the ancestor of the Huang family was. Bowing and cupping his hands in front of the wooden house, he spoke, Senior, this junior has something I wish to discuss for a while. Come in. The ancestor called out calmly from within. Jian Chen strode into the narrow and simple house. The scholarly old man remained seated on his stone seat with a smile on his face. Jian Chen, what might you wish to discuss with this old man? Perhaps you've changed your mind and are willing to lend the power of the Qin Huang kingdom to my Huang family? The ancestor spoke calmly. It seems Senior is fond of jokes. This matter is far too important of a decision. This junior cannot represent the Qin Huang kingdom in such a matter, and even if this junior agreed, the other imperial protectors would not agree. Jian Chen replied. Then what is it you're here for? The ancestor asked. Senior, this junior may not be able to persuade the Qin Huang kingdom help the Huang family, but if I am able to find another individual to help, I hope that the betrothment of Huang Wuan to the Huanggu family can be annulled. Jian Chen stared seriously at the ancestor. He knew that the man in front of him held unbelievable power and might, but as long as he could convince him, there was a chance for the problem of Huang Wuan to be resolved. The ancestor's eyebrows rose up in hesitation. Jian Chen, the betrothment between the Huang and the Huanggu has already been set in stone. The girl Huang Wuan has a talent that is seen within my Huang family once every 100 years. She was able to become an Earth Saint Master at the prime age of 20. This is a talent that the Huanggu family favors highly. In the past, they've thought of every possible way to arrange for a marriage, so now that one is set in place, the Huanggu family is very happy. Wishing to annul this betrothment is easier said than done. Even if we were to do so, the friendship between the two families would be broken. Jian Chen's face shifted slightly. With some urging, he said, Senior, then what do you propose needs to be done to absolve this betrothment? Seeing the anxious look on Jian Chen's face, the ancestor suddenly broke into a smile. Jian Chen, could it be that you've come to favor Huang Wuan? Do you wish to wed to her instead? If an imperial protector from the Qin Huang kingdom wishes to connect to our Huang family by marriage, this old man would be very happy to do so. Jian Chen forced out a smile. Senior, you are still joking around with Junior. This is far too major of an issue. The Qin Huang kingdom will not interfere still. The ancestor revealed a look of disappointment on his face. Ai. Jian Chen, this old man will be honest with you. My Huang family and the Huanggu family have a history of several hundred years of friendship with each other. If this marriage were to be unilaterally absolved, it will destroy the connection between both our families. Although you are capable of finding help for my family, I will not act in such a manner still. Unless you are able of finding help capable of rivaling the Qin Huang kingdom in strength, then I will not be willing to put my family at such risk. Jian Chen hesitated. Senior, this junior knows not how strong that man is, but he is presumably not far away from the Huanggu family. What layer has this saint ruler reached? The ancestor's eyes began to gleam in noticeable interest at this topic. This junior knows not. Jian Chen replied innocently. Hearing this, the ancestor looked disappointed once again. Before he could say anything, Jian Chen's next words caused his facial expression to freeze. This junior does know that senior has lived for 5,000 years as a saint ruler. What? He has been a saint ruler for 5,000 years. The ancestor could no longer hold his calm and came flying up to his feet with a crash of the seat underneath him and a look of shock on his face. Correct. 5,000 years ago, he became a saint ruler. Jian Chen repeated. This abnormal reaction from the ancestor caused Jian Chen to feel hopeful once again. The ancestor stared hard at Jian Chen, his voice quivering as he spoke. Is he still alive? He is alive and well. Jian Chen replied. Chapter 522, Advent of Uncle Tian. The ancestor's face suddenly began to flow with emotions, and the elderly face of the ancestor grew bright red because of this excitement. It was truly hard to imagine that such a high and mighty saint ruler would suddenly lose control of his emotions like so. Jian Chen, if you can truly bring this senior to help our Huang family, no matter what request it is that you have, my Huang family will do its best to satisfy you. The ancestor clasped onto Jian Chen's shoulders with both hands and spoke in an exuberant voice. Senior, rest assured. This time, Jian Chen, will do whatever it takes to invite that man over. When the time comes, I hope that you will rescind the betrothment of Huang Wan. Jian Chen spoke earnestly. No worries at all. As long as that senior helps my Huang family, then the Huanggu family wouldn't even dare let a fart out after we cancel the betrothment. The ancestor replied. At that moment, he felt no more hesitation and had no more qualms about offending the Huanggu family. A short moment later, the ancestor seemed to have thought of something, and immediately had a rather artificial look on his face. However, Jian Chen, you must first let me see this senior for me to agree. As long as I can get this senior to personally agree to help, only then will I consider this to be a done deal. Very well, I will first return to invite this senior. After leaving the mountain peak of the ancestor, Jian Chen returned to the Huang family's villa where Huang Wan was and walked to the second story of the pavilion. There was still the lingering scent of orchid in the room, and upon entrance, Jian Chen felt rather intoxicated by the smell. Jian Chen didn't know that this was the smell of orchid to begin with, and neither did he know what the importance behind this essence was. Hearing the sound of footsteps behind her, Huang Wan seemed to have realized that it was Jian Chen from her spot next to the window and whirled around to look expectantly at him. A trail of tears could still be seen on her face in a rather pitiful sight. You're back, did you think of a way? Huang Wan asked expectantly. Despite her being so unwilling to have Jian Chen use the Qinhuang kingdom to help her family at the cost of several power holders being unsatisfied with him, she still maintained a glimmer of hope and some expectations. I've already convinced your grandfather, who has agreed with me as well. If I can find someone even stronger than the Huanggu family, he will rescind your betrothment to the Huanggu family. Jian Chen explained. Jian Chen's words made Huang Wan feel more worried for him rather than herself. Pacing to Jian Chen, she spoke in concern. Will the Qinhuang kingdom support you in this? If they participate in this matter, they will offend a few saint rulers. Even the Huanggu family would be an injured party. Jian Chen laughed. I'm not that foolish. Don't worry. This matter won't be something the Qinhuang kingdom will participate in. Even I don't wish for the troubles of the Qinhuang kingdom to be increased. However, whether I can invite this senior or not, I am still not completely sure myself. In short, I will try my best. I came here so I can say goodbye for now. To finish this problem, I must hurry on back. Then you have to take care of yourself. Huang Wan's heart trembled with affection. At this current moment, she was truly moved by Jian Chen. With a nod of his head, Jian Chen turned around to leave without another word. Afterward, Jian Chen looked for the 5 imperial advisors currently participating in a banquet with the rest of the Huang family. Dragging them away from the dining table, they all bade farewell to the head of the Huang family and hurriedly left. Sniffing the scent of the essence fragrance on Jian Chen, Qing Xiaofan gave a deep look to Jian Chen with a mischievous smile. Honored imperial protector, why is there such a fragrance to you? Were you perhaps doing something bad in the Huang family for you to leave in such a worry? Jian Chen had been worrying about several serious matters and had completely disregarded everyone's teasing. With a calm voice, he responded, there is some matters we need to hurry back to, that is why we left in such a hurry. Seeing the grim look on his face, Xiao Tian and the others lost their teasing mood and grew somber. Speaking for everyone, Xiao Tian asked, Honored imperial protector, what in the world has happened that made you hurry like this? It's not quite a short story, but it's also not quite a long story. In short, it is a rather important personal matter to me. Jian Chen spoke vaguely. Xiao Tian and the others realized that Jian Chen was not going to explain to them, so they didn't bother to continue asking. Instead, they focused on traveling. The 6 of them traversed thousands of meters through the sky at a tremendously fast flight speed. Beneath their feet was the endless sea of clouds, and even the sky in front of them was so vast that it could not be seen in completion. One would only be able to see the setting sun falling down beneath the horizon. 2 days later, the group returned to the Jessen kingdom. Jian Chen took a quick bath in a nearby river to wash away the remaining smell on him before putting on a new pair of white clothes to return to the Changyang clan. This lowly officer pays his respect to the 4th master. Within the Changyang clan, there was practically no one who didn't know Jian Chen. Whether it was a guard or servant, they all bowed respectfully in salute to Jian Chen as he traveled into the manor. After his return to the Changyang clan, Jian Chen didn't even stop to see his parents and headed straight to Ming Dong's place of rest. Xiao Tian and the others finished their mission and scattered instead of continuing to follow Jian Chen. Jian Chen, when did you return? Jian Chen's sudden arrival surprised Ming Dong. There was a happy smile on his face for a moment, but when he saw the solemn and grim look on Jian Chen's face, Ming Dong couldn't help but feel the smile on his face disappear slowly. Jian Chen, did the Huang family make trouble for you? In Ming Dong's mind, Jian Chen was a friend that had experienced life and death with him, therefore, he felt extremely close to him. He was his most trustworthy friend and would not permit any single person to wrong Jian Chen. Jian Chen shook his head gently and sat down at the table. Personally pouring a cup of tea to drink, he spoke seriously, Ming Dong, there is something I require your help with. Ming Dong sat in the seat across from Jian Chen and looked at Jian Chen with upraised eyebrows and a rather dissatisfied look. Jian Chen, are you or are you not my sworn brother? Using such a manner to speak with me, just say whatever you need to say with me. Don't go beating around the bush like we are strangers. As long as it is your problem, whether it requires me to scale a mountain of blades or dive into a sea of fire, Ming Dong will not shirk my duties. Jian Chen gave an apologetic smile and immediately cut to the chase. Ming Dong, I wish to have your uncle Tian come forth and help settle a matter impartially. Hearing that Jian Chen actually needed his uncle Tian, Ming Dong immediately sensed that the matter was serious and grew solemn in accordance to the situation. Afterward, Jian Chen gave him a detailed explanation about the matters with Huang Wan and her family to Ming Dong without any detail left out. After hearing all of this, Ming Dong's grim expression faded away and he instead stared at Jian Chen with a meaningful look. Smiling mischievously, he said, just what was I thinking? So it was this type of matter. Jian Chen, for the sake of making such a fuss for a woman you have met only several times in the past, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to someone else's wife-to-be. Jian Chen gave a hollow laugh, it isn't as complicated as you think it is. No matter what is said, Huang Wan and I had traveled together for a short duration in Mercenary City. I do not wish to see her wed to a person she does not love. Jian Chen. You don't need to be so embarrassed. Polygamy on the Tianyuan continent has been a common occurrence for a very long time. Even your own father has married 4 wives. With your strength and appearance, if you didn't find several girls, then it would be a huge disservice to that rather envious face of yours. Ming Dong teased. Changing the subject, Jian Chen spoke, Ming Dong, would it be possible for your uncle Tian to come out? Aside from him, there is no one else that I feel can accomplish this. Jian Chen knew a decent amount of saint rulers in his personal network. Aside from the 4 imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom, there was still the elder Xiao from Longevity Valley and Ming Dong's uncle Tian. The 4 imperial protectors were symbols for the Qinhuang kingdom and couldn't simply act as they pleased. Elder Xiao had already hidden himself away for many years, although Jian Chen knew that he was at the very least a saint ruler. After such a hermit lifestyle, Jian Chen did not wish to be the one to break that way of life for the elder. He did not wish to add to the burdens of Elder Xiao and had decided not to ask him. Furthermore, Elder Xiao's true strength had not been ascertained by Jian Chen, so Jian Chen did not know whether or not the elder would be able to be of much help. All that was left was Uncle Tian. The time when the saint ruler recognized Ming Dong, Jian Chen had been quite shocked. To have even heaven's saint masters as servants, Uncle Tian had lived by himself in a floating shrine as its master. This type of setting was something that neither the saint rulers of the sect of Dragon and Tiger or the Qinhuang kingdom possessed. More importantly, Ming Dong's Uncle Tian had become a saint ruler 5,000 years ago. Now 5,000 years later, just what terrifying level of strength would he reach now? Whatever the case, with Uncle Tian's efforts, there would be no way that he would make no headway in 50 years. Moreover, Uncle Tian was seemingly a person of Mercenary City. Although a mercenary was a rather free occupation, Jian Chen had learned something after he visited Mercenary City. Although the Tian Yuan continent had such a free occupation like being a mercenary, Mercenary City was still a very large organization of mercenaries. Even the elders within it were saint rulers of large amounts and had other idle saint rulers as close friends. With these thoughts, Jian Chen figured that Mercenary City was an extremely strong power. It was, after all, the place that had been created by the continent's number one individual, Mo Tianyun. Jian Chen, I've said before. As long as it is your problem, then I, Ming Dong, will scale a mountain of blades and dive into a sea of flames without hesitation. Ming Dong took out a jade piece. My uncle Tian gave this to me. He instructed me to just put some saint force into this to notify him should I ever come across a problem I cannot resolve. Clenching tightly onto the jade piece, Ming Dong began to circulate his saint force into the piece and allowed it to be sucked in. After the saint force was absorbed, the originally dull jade piece began to light out brilliantly. Ming Dong, where is your Uncle Tian now? Jian Chen asked out of curiosity. Probably in Mercenary City. Ever since you entered the Holy Lands, Uncle Tian and I went to my parents and took them to Mercenary City. However, I didn't return with him and remained in the Jessen Kingdom. After I accomplished the mission you gave me, I stayed here. Ming Dong spoke. Jian Chen pointed at the jade piece Ming Dong and asked, Mercenary City is extremely far away from here, will that method really work? Ming Dong gave a proud smile, don't worry, Jian Chen. You don't know how amazing my Uncle Tian is. I have full confidence that he won't trick me. As soon as Ming Dong finished speaking, the space in front of them immediately began to surge and swirl. Then, as soon as the two men realized what was happening, a rip in space had suddenly appeared. In an instant, a doorway had been formed from the space, and from the other side of the doorway was a rather gigantic palace hall. Right in front of Jian Chen's stunned eyes, a white-robed, middle-aged man came walking forth from the doorway. This man had an ordinary facial appearance, but the way the space seemed to unaffect him while he floated above the ground gave him a supernatural sensation. Uncle Tian. Upon seeing this man, Ming Dong called out affectionately as if greeting a family member. Chapter 523, Revisiting the Huang family. Seeing the middle-aged man in front of him, Jian Chen was in a daze. Uncle Tian's method of arrival was far too odd for Jian Chen to understand. It was practically millions of kilometers away from Mercenary City to here. Merely a breath after Ming Dong had used that jade piece of his, Ming Dong's Uncle Tian had traversed that distance in no time at all. Even more shocking to Jian Chen was that Uncle Tian seemed to break apart the fabric of space as well. Furthermore, he appeared precisely within this not as spacious room. Such a precise position like this was almost unbelievable to him. That was because a space gate simply couldn't be set up this quickly. The space gate behind the man slowly disappeared from sight, allowing the space it had opened up from to return back to normal. No one there would be able to see that a fissure had even opened up in the sky to begin with. There was not a sliver of energy to be felt from this man. From the appearance of his face, he was nothing more than the average commoner. Nothing strange could be said about him except for the fact that he was floating in midair like some sort of supernatural figure. Uncle Tian, I didn't think that you'd come so fast. This jade piece you gave me is really useful. Ming Dong spoke in excitement. Toward this middle-aged man, his voice held an undisguised level of emotion. In Ming Dong's mind, Uncle Tian held a tremendous amount of power and was even more important than his own parents. The reason why he achieved the success he had today was all due to Uncle Tian's kindness. It was Uncle Tian that had transformed him from an ordinary mercenary into what he was now. Not only did he grow from a great Saint Master to a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master, he was one of the many people on the Yian Yuan continent that held a highly coveted heaven-tier battle skill. Uncle Tian slowly descended to the ground and smiled kindly at Ming Dong as if he was looking fondly at his very own grandson. Brimming with care and doting, he smiled, "Child, what have you come to your uncle for?" "Uncle Tian, my sworn brother Jian Chen has something he requires your assistance with." Ming Dong spoke. Uncle Tian continued to have that kind smile on his face as he turned toward Jian Chen. Suddenly, the light in his eyes concentrated heavily onto Jian Chen before turning resplendent. With a startled sound of surprise, the saint ruler's expression grew astonished. Shortly afterward, 2 bright golden rays of light shot out from his eyes and seemed to bathe Jian Chen within their golden color. Jian Chen wanted to say something, but he found himself unexpectedly unable to do anything. It seemed that the golden ray of light caused his entire body to become immobilized. He no longer had control of it. This sudden development made Jian Chen feel extremely shocked, but he calmed himself down in a flash since he knew that Ming Dong's Uncle Tian wouldn't do anything unfavorable to him without a reason. The saint ruler's actions caused Ming Dong to turn pale with fright before crying out to him in anxiety, "Uncle Tian, just what are you doing?" Before Ming Dong could finish his sentence, Uncle Tian held up his hand to stop him. With a calm voice, he said, "Do not worry, I only wish to look at the current condition of his body, I am not hurting him." With that, Ming Dong let out a sigh of relief. He thought that Uncle Tian was about to hurt Jian Chen. Very quickly, the golden ray surrounding Jian Chen's body disappeared. The golden light in the saint ruler's eyes had also returned back to its normal color. As soon as the light disappeared, Jian Chen felt his body control come back to him. Although he was not hurt in any way, Jian Chen was practically sweating bullets. He did not know just how strong Uncle Tian was, but this course of action by him had frightened Jian Chen. If a single observation with his eyes was enough for Jian Chen to lose control of his body, that meant Uncle Tian's strength was truly too terrifying to behold. Uncle Tian's eyebrows narrowed together as his brightly lit eyes stared at Jian Chen. With a low voice, he wondered, "Your saint weapon was actually shattered?" Jian Chen's heart leaped up his throat once again. The secret that his saint weapon was shattered was something that neither the saint rulers of the Qin Huang kingdom or the Huang family had been able to discover. This Uncle Tian had unexpectedly been able to do so with a single glance, finding out Jian Chen's greatest secret just like that. How could he not feel surprised at that? In truth, Jian Chen began to exaggerate and think that in front of Uncle Tian, there was not a single secret he could hide from him. Jian Chen grew extremely courteous and cupped his hands together. "Junior Jian Chen pays his respects to Senior." Senior is correct, this junior saint weapon was destroyed. Curious, what a miracle. Despite your saint weapon gone, your strength and mind power seem even stronger than before. Even my eyes cannot see just what fortuitous event caused this to happen. Uncle Tian replied. The saint ruler's words shocked Jian Chen again. He had no idea that even his mind power would be able to be determined at a glance. Though, he felt a little reassured since the saint ruler's voice did not indicate that he had learned about the azure and violet sword spirits. It is as Senior says, this junior came across a happenstance that allowed me to preserve my strength even after my saint weapon was shattered. Jian Chen replied respectfully. Uncle Tian nodded his head with his eyes still staring brightly at Jian Chen. Then, with a slightly more thoughtful expression, he spoke, "With the intensity of your power of thought, you're already capable of controlling the energy of the world. I didn't expect that since we last met half a year ago, you would reach such a level." This rate of progression is simply too unbelievable. Uncle Tian paused to sit down at the nearby table. Tell me why you need my assistance so much. Jianchen replied respectfully, Senior, this junior has a matter that I wish Senior will oversee impartially. With that, Jianchen began to recount the tale of the Huang family to him. Hearing the entire story from start to finish, Uncle Tian sat there without a word and with furrowed eyebrows. At this, Ming Dong felt quite anxious. Worried that his Uncle Tian would refuse Jianchen, Ming Dong pleaded, Uncle Tian, Jianchen is my sworn brother. If it wasn't for Jianchen saving me in the past, I wouldn't be able to survive until today, let alone see you, Uncle Tian. Now that my sworn brother is in trouble, you must help my sworn brother. Almost as if he was moved by Ming Dong's words, the Saint Ruler sighed. I had originally planned on not getting involved, but I suppose I should help just this once if Jianchen saved your life before. Jianchen was unable to contain his joy at those words and clasped his hands together. Many thanks to Senior for his assistance. No thanks is necessary. Jianchen, you are quite talented in skill. In fact, you are several times stronger than Ming Dong. I hope that when I am not around, you will look after Ming Dong in my stead. He sighed as a helpless light flashed in his eyes. Senior, this junior and Ming Dong are sworn brothers. Even without Senior saying so, this junior would do so. Jianchen spoke honestly. Ming Dong felt rather displeased at Uncle Tian's words and grumbled, Uncle Tian, you take me to be a young child still. Uncle Tian smiled, there's no time to lose then. The sooner we go, the sooner we can resolve this matter. Jianchen, which direction is the Huang family located in? About several 10,000 kilometers in the northwestern mountains. Jianchen spoke with excitement. With the Saint Ruler Tian making his advent, the ancestor of the Huang family would have no qualms either. Growing silent for a moment, the Saint Ruler then responded, I've found the location, let us go then. Yes, Senior. Jianchen immediately walked toward the exit. After his feet had taken several steps forward, his entire body suddenly came to a stop as he stared at Uncle Tian in amazement. He had only watched Uncle Tian's right hand slowly lift up before settling down on the empty space in front of his chest. The next moment, the space near him began to violently tremble, and in another brief moment, a pitch-black crack appeared right in front of Jianchen's eyes. The crack expanded rapidly before instantaneously becoming a space gate. The entrance to the other side was a very familiar sight to Jianchen. It was the house where the ancestor of the Huang family lived in. It should be here. Let's go then. Uncle Tian spoke before waving his other hand. Jianchen could only feel a tremendous amount of power envelop him without any resistance before independently shooting him through the space along with Ming Dong. After the three disappeared, the spatial rend left behind slowly winked out of existence, allowing the space to become normal again. The only difference was that the former three inhabitants of the room had vanished without any of the Heaven Saint Masters in Changyang Manor noticing. At the Huang family's residence on the sword-shaped mountain peak, the ancestor of the Huang family was cultivating as per usual. Pondering on his position over a stool, his expression couldn't help but reveal an expectant look. Ever since Jianchen had left, he couldn't bring himself to the calm needed to cultivate. All his mind could think about were the words, 5,000-year-old Saint Ruler. After becoming a Saint Ruler for so many years, the ancestor was extremely understanding just how paramount the existence of a 5,000-year-old Saint Ruler was. Such a person like this was even more rare than a commoner getting a glance at one of the ancient clans or finding the feather of a phoenix and the scale of a qilin. On the Tianyuan continent, whether it was a Heaven Saint Master, Saint Ruler, or an existence above a Saint Ruler, they were all still unable to escape from the shackles of age. On the continent, the average human would only be able to live for 200 years. An Earth Saint Master was expected to live for 500 years, and a Heaven Saint Master for 1,000 years. For a Saint Ruler, they should only be able to live for 3,000 years. Even a 9th layer Saint Ruler would only be able to live for 3,200 years at most. Unless there was some sort of longevity medicine, it was very hard to break apart this law. In order to live for 5,000 years, one had to make a breakthrough as a saint ruler. A saint ruler would never be able to live for as long as 5,000 years. Under the heavens, only a saint king or higher would be able to live for that long of a lifespan. It had been for this reason that when the ancestor had first heard Jian Chen describe this saint ruler having reached 5,000 years old, he lost all of his self-control and had even enthusiastically agreed to Jian Chen's request at the risk of offending the Huanggu clan. Just like this, the ancestor sat there for 2 days uneasily. He couldn't calm down enough to cultivate, and in his mind, he was extremely anxious to see whether or not Jian Chen would really be able to bring such a character to help his Huang family. With such a high and mighty existence like this backing the Huang family, they would be able to hold their head up high in front of the ancient clans, let alone such small and insignificant isolated families. Just while the ancestor sat nervously on the stool, he suddenly felt the space in front of him start to warp and distort. Then, a space gate suddenly appeared right in front of the hut where the ancestor lived. 3 people were revealed as they walked out from it. Chapter 524, Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Seeing this tear in the fabric of space occur within his tiny house made the ancestor feel dumbfounded. He had placed a barrier on this mountain so that it would be isolated from the rest of the world. Even a saint ruler wouldn't be able to walk in here without being detected, let alone open a space gate without resistance. Furthermore, this space gate had coincidentally opened up right inside his small home. When his eyes landed upon Jian Chen, who was one of the 3, his eyes began to shine and his body began to tremble. Immediately leaping up from his jade seat, he gave a respectful bow. Junior Huang Tianba pays his respect to senior. The ancestor was so excited that his voice quavered as he spoke. Uncle Tian glanced at the ancestor before turning to ask Jian Chen, "Is this the man?" From his stare, Uncle Tian simply disregarded the ancestor as anyone important despite him being a saint ruler. Jian Chen nodded. Seeing the venerable expression of the ancestor, he couldn't help but laugh to himself in his mind, but his expression was still calm on the outside. "Senior, I've done what you have asked and brought the person in question to you. Is this to your satisfaction?" The ancestor's face started when he heard Jian Chen. Changing from a respectful expression to one that would bow and scrape for favors, he seemed as if he was afraid of infuriating this senior in front of him. After all, having such a high and mighty person come running all the way for such a tiny figure like him was not how a respectful senior should be treated. Brother Jian Chen loves his jokes, so this junior had spoken his own joke. I had no idea that Brother Jian Chen would take it seriously. "Senior, if this junior has offended you for having you brought all the way here, please forgive this one." The ancestor sounded very panicked. A monster of a person who had managed to live for 5,000 years was someone that even the ancient clans wouldn't offend, let alone the ancestor of an isolated family like the Huang. Uncle Tian remained unmoved at the bowing of the head and the bending of the knees of the ancestor and replied indifferently, "There was no harm. I came at Jian Chen's request to resolve a problem. I presume you are the man in question of this problem." At those words, the heart of the ancestor was shocked by Jian Chen's capabilities. In this moment, Jian Chen's status instantly rocketed up in his mind to become a person who he could never offend and also someone who should be roped into his family at all costs. He didn't dare not respond to the ancestor, so he replied with a respectful tone, "Senior's words are too serious. There is no need for Senior to involve himself in this trifling matter, this junior will resolve it himself. If that is right, then that would be for the best. I do not like meddling in the affairs of others, but I have already promised Jian Chen to help. I have listened to your family troubles, so I shall give you this jade piece. Should you ever need me to act, then just crush this in your hand and I'll come within 3 breaths worth of time." A thumb-sized white jade floated from Uncle Tian's hand and slowly moved toward the ancestor. The ancestor's excitement could barely be contained as he took hold of the white jade into his hands. "Many thanks for Senior's generosity." To be able to receive the assistance of a saint king was far too important in meaning to the Huang family. Although he only had this one chance to use it, it would bolster the might of the Huang family and would resolve the issue of the Huang family's conflict with the other saint rulers. The ancestor hesitated for a moment as he looked at Uncle Tian for a moment before carefully asking. If this junior might ask senior what to refer to you by, or what affiliation senior might have so that in the future this junior's meager help may be given. I am known as Tian Jian, a Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Your help won't be necessary for now with what power you have. Wait until you become a Saint King, then we'll talk. Uncle Tian spoke. To him, a saint ruler was nothing special, there were plenty of those to be seen in Mercenary City. When the title of being a Grand Elder for Mercenary City was heard to the ancestor, his entire body was suddenly drained of its strength and his knees dropped to the ground after being unable to sustain his body weight. There was panic in his expression, and his heart threatened to leap out from his throat. Looking at Tian Jian's face, there was utter disbelief in his expression along with some terror and fear mixed in. As a saint ruler, he was somewhat knowledgeable about the inner workings of Mercenary City despite not being affiliated with it. He was extremely clear on the hierarchy of Mercenary City, how it was ruled, governed, and divided up. Mercenary City was indeed a city, but it wasn't under the jurisdiction of any one area while maintaining the same strength as any other city might have. There was no city ruler as Mercenary City had no need for one of those to keep law and order. The prohibition on fighting was a rule that even saint rulers wouldn't dare violate. The ones who truly held power in Mercenary City were all from a group of elders. These elders were the highest nucleus of power for Mercenary City, and among them, the Grand Elders held the highest position. It was no exaggeration to say that a Grand Elder was the ultimate ruler of Mercenary City. Not only could they mobilize the entirety of Mercenary City, they were the decided people who had the most authority in it. Aside from that, the Grand Elders of Mercenary City were extremely strong. They stood on the forefront of the strongest on the Tianyuan continent and were truly the ones who stood at the top of the power pyramid. Even if he were to dream, the ancestor would never hope to think that Jian Chen would invite a senior that held such unimaginable power. Even the thought had struck a feeling of terror in his heart. Like a wooden chicken, the ancestor just stood there. Despite being a saint ruler, he was nothing but an ant in front of a Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Moving his eyes from the ancestor to Ming Dong affectionately, he smiled, "Child, you should come with me to Mercenary City and stay there for now." Uncle Tian. I wish to be with Brother Jian Chen for now. I'll stay here. Ming Dong responded. Very well. All you lack is experience right now. Following Jian Chen would make you stronger than staying in Mercenary City. Tian Jian nodded. Just then, Ming Dong suddenly thought of something and his eyes began to sparkle. Uncle Tian, the Shi family and the Jetta clan are both enemies of ours. Our sworn brother has been forced by them in the past. You might as well settle the problem with those two families. If the experts of their families come, the two of us wouldn't have enough strength to fight them. Tian Jian shook his head. Child, you cannot leave every single problem for your uncle to resolve. If there comes a day when I am not around, how will you survive on the Tianyuan continent? Right now, you must learn to overcome any difficulties and troubles you come across yourself. Although he was lecturing Ming Dong, Tian Jian's voice was very soft and did not sound too harsh. It gave off the grandfatherly feeling of benevolence. Yes, Uncle Tian. Ming Dong spoke with some helplessness and disappointment. Now that the problem has been taken care of, I will be returning to Mercenary City. Will you be staying here in the Jessen Kingdom? Tian Jian asked. Ming Dong had said nothing and instead looked to Jian Chen. Jian Chen took a moment to think about it. Senior, we will be staying here for some time. Tian Jian said nothing and instead lifted his palms up to part the space once more. Within 2 breaths worth of time, a giant building could be seen on the other side of the space gate before he disappeared into it. At this sight, Jian Chen's eyes revealed a deep look of yearning. Tian Jian's usage of space was something that was perfected to the highest level. With such capabilities like this, one would be able to travel anywhere under the heavens without wasting time or money to travel on the road. With Jian Chen's current strength, he could only yearn for this power for now. A spot where Tianjian resided was a spot where Jian Chen could only look forward to. After all, that was a position where even a saint ruler had to bow and scrape his knee. The ancestor watched the ancestor leave with a stunned expression. A little absent-mindedly, he muttered, "So that is the strength of a saint king, they can tear apart the space to travel millions of kilometers." Shortly afterward, the ancestor looked to the jade piece held in his hand and began to grow excited. In this moment of observation, this jade piece was 1,000 times more precious than any other treasure under the heavens. None other could compare to this one. The ancestor took out an exquisite jade case from his space ring and gently placed the jade piece into it for safekeeping. This jade piece could be used to summon a grand elder of Mercenary City. Even if it was only a single use, it was still priceless in value since it equated to an unbelievable amount of might. After putting away the jade piece, the ancestor exhaled. It took him a long time to calm down because his heart was still beating rapidly. It was at this moment that he discovered with some shock that his entire forehead was drenched with sweat. Wiping away the sweat on his forehead, the ancestor looked to Jian Chen and Ming Dong with a complicated stare. Despite Ming Dong only being an Earth Saint Master, Ming Dong was essentially the ancestor of his own family in the eyes of the ancestor. He had witnessed how Ming Dong had referred to Tianjian all too clearly. Even with the ancestor in such a state of doubtful panic, Jian Chen laughed and spoke to him. "Senior, would it be possible for you to rescind the engagement between Miss Huang'er and the Huanggu clan?" Yes, of course." The ancestor hurried to respond. Now that the ancestor knew that Jian Chen and Ming Dong were both backed by a grand elder from Mercenary City, his attitude toward them both drastically changed. Even now, there was a bit of a fawning tone to it that disregarded his own status. Chapter 525. The young lady offering a kiss. Now that Huang Wan's situation was finally done and over with, Jian Chen's face had a smile on it. However, his heart knew that everything was thanks to Ming Dong. If not for his intimate connection with Uncle Tian, Jian Chen never would have been able to persuade Uncle Tian to help him. Yet Jian Chen was also extremely shocked at the status of Uncle Tian. A grand elder of Mercenary City. Although he had no idea just how noble of a position that was in Mercenary City, he could pretty much guess just how prestigious a grand elder was. Afterward, Jian Chen and Ming Dong both left the mountain peak with the ancestor accompanying them. After experiencing what he had just went through, the ancestor's attitude toward Jian Chen and Ming Dong had completely changed. He even unexpectedly accompanied Jian Chen and Ming Dong as they flew through the air. Even his status of being a saint ruler had been forgotten with how he laughed and smiled as he talked with them on the way to the villa. The three finally came to a stop right in front of the center of the halls. At the same time, plenty of Heaven Saint Masters had already begun to gather here from every corner of the villa. After gathering in the halls, everyone knelt down to the ground and cried out, "We pay our respects to the ancestor." It seemed that on the way, the ancestor had managed to pass a message to a few of them. "Everyone, stand up and come in. This old man has an announcement to make." Throwing out his words, the ancestor swished his robes around as he strode into the hall where all the important matters were discussed. Every single Heaven Saint Master within the Huang family looked at each other before turning to look at Jian Chen, who was standing right next to the ancestor. Their hearts shook as if they had started to connect the dots. The Huang family had lived in isolation for many thousands of years, so the amount of Heaven Saint Masters they had wasn't a small number. At least 13 of these Heaven Saint Masters were seeing Jian Chen for the first time. They were all people who held an important position in the family. Only those who had usually remained in seclusion to cultivate or the two representatives of the Huang family had seen Jian Chen before. Very quickly, everyone gathered in the halls. The 13 Heaven Saint Masters sat quietly on their chairs on both sides of the hall. Reverently, they looked to the ancestor seated ahead of them. Under the idea of the ancestor, Jian Chen and Ming Dong both sat right next to him in the closest seats possible. Most of the people there were already clear on Jian Chen's status as the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom and truly possessed the right to sit where he was. But an Earth Saint Master like Ming Dong seated in such a position caused many people to question just why he was there. However, no one had dared to voice any objections since it was at the request of the ancestor. It was only in their hearts that they tried to guess Ming Dong's identity or which family he was the young master to. The ancestor said nothing about the matter and instead moved straight to the main topic at hand. This old man has called you all here today for an announcement. The ancestor stopped for a moment as his eyes observed the several individuals of the Huang family with bright eyes. From here on out, Huang Wuan's betrothment to the Huanggu clan is now absolved. Have someone sent to the Huanggu clan to tell them of this news. At the voice of the ancestor, plenty of people began to blanch while a few of them revealed faint smiles on their faces. To them, the only reason why their ancestor would annul the betrothment with the Huanggu clan would be for the reason that he had found an even stronger power to ally themselves with. An imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom would be such an example. Ancestor, this is an extremely important matter. If we were to unilaterally agree to annul the betrothment, it would be a great slap to the faces of the Huanggu clan. There is no way that they won't feel dissatisfied with us. This is a situation where our friendship with the Huanggu would become irrevocably destroyed. An elder spoke seriously. Elder Ping speaks correctly. Ancestor, annulling the betrothment is something we should absolutely avoid. Our family has enjoyed several hundred years of friendly relations with the Huanggu clan, and they have taken to Huang Wuan with great interest. With this, the Huanggu family's friendship with our Huang family would be ruined. Please reconsider, ancestor. Another elder spoke in agreement to not annul the betrothment. The gleam in the ancestor's eyes suddenly grew ferocious as he gave a sharp stare to the two elders, Ping Qiao, Huang Yingran. This old man knows that your relations with the Huanggu clan is quite decent, but this old man has already made a decision. I will not change my mind, and neither will you two say any more about this. The ancestor's voice was firm and decisive without leaving behind any margin to talk back. This made everyone who heard the ancestor give up on trying to convince him to change his mind. At this, no one made any more objections. Even those who had decent relations with the Huanggu clan and wished to help them had no other choice but to close their mouths shut. I've already made up my mind on this. Dispatch someone to let the Huanggu clan know. Be sure to give them some gifts to compensate for this. The ancestor spoke. Yes, ancestor. Everyone replied. Then the ancestor made a second announcement. And now this old man has another announcement to make. From here on out, our friends Jian Chen and Ming Dong will be our most honored guests of the Huang family. Every person must ensure to be on their best behavior without any delay or risk this old man's punishment. With that, the ancestor's voice grew harsh. These two brats had the backing of a grand elder from Mercenary City, making them people who could not be offended by any means. The ancestor had long since made his decision to do his best to rope these two into his group. Everyone seated down below was stupefied as they looked in shock toward Ming Dong. They hadn't expected the ancestor to place so much importance on Ming Dong. Jian Chen was an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom, so he was to be expected to receive such treatment. But Ming Dong's identity was something that everyone was completely curious about now. The ancestor had not introduced Ming Dong since he himself did not have much understanding of him. He had only known Ming Dong's name because Jian Chen had said it before. After the ancestor had finished, Ming Dong had seemed to have gained an extremely high position within the family despite being an outsider. This forced every single Heaven Saint Master to be extremely polite to an Earth Saint Master like Ming Dong, but an act like this was practically unprecedented in their family history. After the meeting was over, the ancestor did not return to his mountain to cultivate, and instead prepared a banquet to personally receive Jian Chen and Ming Dong. This action of the ancestor yet again caused every single Heaven Saint Master there to drop their jaws wide open in shock. A prestigious saint ruler personally receiving an Earth Saint Master was an absolutely fantastic story to hear about on the continent. Every single individual from the Huang family grew even more curious to what status Ming Dong held as a result. However, they could not directly inquire about Ming Dong and were left to conjecture to themselves in chaos because the ancestor had told them to speak no more about the subject. Jian Chen did not participate in the banquet and instead bade farewell to the Huang family to walk to Huang Wan's pavilion. He wanted to personally report the news to her. Jian Chen walked into the pavilion without obstruction and walked straight up to the second floor. This time, Jian Chen did not smell that same sweet scent from 2 days ago. That enchanting smell that had intoxicated his senses had completely vanished now. Jian Chen's eyes swept around the room before catching sight of Huang Wan's figure. All he could see was Huang Wan's figure wearing a black cheongsam similar to the one from 2 days ago. Still seated by the window by herself, she stared out at the scenery beyond in a daze without being conscious of the environment around her. Even Jian Chen's entrance had gone unnoticed by her. Noticing that Huang Wan had not noticed him come in, Jian Chen sighed to himself. He could already imagine just how damaging the news of her being betrothed to the Huanggu family was to her heart. She was practically beside herself as a result. It was a good thing that this problem was now done and over with. "Miss Huang Wan," Jian Chen called out. At this sudden call, Huang Wan was so startled that she jumped up. Her dainty body gave a violent whirl to turn anxiously toward Jian Chen. She knew in her heart that whether or not she would be able to leave this pavilion in joy in the future was solely up to Jian Chen's words. Seeing the anxious look on her face, Jian Chen couldn't help but break out into a faint smile. "Miss Huang Wan, I am very happy to say that your problem is now solved. Your ancestor has already annulled the betrothment between you and the Huanggu clan. You don't need to be so vexed about this situation anymore." Huang Wan's face instantly went sluggish before quickly being replaced with joy. Her entire body began to tremble and shake violently with emotions as she spoke excitedly. Really? You wouldn't be kidding with me, would you? Has the ancestor truly annulled the betrothment?" In this short time, her heart had been worried without reprieve. Her betrothment to the second master of the Huanggu clan was a curse and a tight shackle that bounded her body and tormented her. Not only did she not wish to be wed to the second master of that clan, she already had someone she loved in her heart. This man in her heart was far superior, far more outstanding, and was practically the living personification of perfection. Right now, these shackles and curses that had been placed on her body had practically vanished, by the one she loved no less. This was something that made her so moved that she couldn't contain herself. Although she didn't know just what method Jian Chen had used to change the ancestor's mind, her nimble mind understood one thing. If the ancestor was willing to offend the Huanggu clan by rescinding the betrothment, what Jian Chen had done was no minor task. "Of course it's true. If you don't believe me, you can go outside and see for yourself." Jian Chen smiled. 2 teardrops stole away from Huang Wan's eyes as she charged straight for Jian Chen like an arrow. With both arms tossed around Jian Chen to hug him, she stood on her tiptoes. Under the stunned eyes of Jian Chen, her delicate cherry-red mouth locked with Jian Chen's own lips. Chapter 526, Deep Feelings. With this sudden in-the-moment kiss from Huang Lua, Jian Chen's mind had instantly gone blank. He stood there for a very long time. This was the very first intimate action a female had effectuated with him in both his lifetimes. The tip of his nose could practically smell the unique womanly scent of Huang Wan, while a wonderful sensation he had never experienced before could be felt. It sent his mind into chaos. At this moment, Jian Chen was utterly confounded and did not know how to react. Perhaps it had been because Huang Wan had suppressed her emotions for Jian Chen for far too long, for they had suddenly come bursting out in this moment like the eruption of a volcano. Fierce beyond fierce and unstoppable in its motions, her body passed all of her intensity through this one kiss, releasing all of the worry she had accumulated in her heart. This would be the very first time Jian Chen would experience such a thing. He hadn't even time to bring a hand up to stop her and was now at a complete loss. Even after realizing what was happening, Jian Chen's heart had begun to leap erratically after feeling Huang Wan's soft tongue press against his. Even his usually drawn-out breathing had become coarse. Although Jian Chen had never thought about having to do anything with love, he was still a healthy male in the end. Huang Wan herself was very beautiful. In fact, she was devastatingly beautiful. Even under the heavens, she was very remarkable. So when such a beautiful woman offered a kiss, even Jian Chen wasn't able to keep his calm. The hidden and deep feelings within Jian Chen had finally ignited, forcing Jian Chen to close his eyes. Jian Chen's arms suddenly flew out to grasp onto Huang Wan's soft flesh and embrace her tightly to his body. Even through the thin clothes of Huang Wan, Jian Chen could feel the intense heat from her body, causing his heart to surge with emotions. With their kiss, the two of them stuck close to each other. Jian Chen had been lit aflame due to Huang Wan's initiative, therefore, he had responded passionately. At this current moment, they had thrown out everything else to enjoy the pleasure of the moment. A good while after, the two finally split apart. Huang Wan was still holding on to Jian Chen with both arms, but her head was tilted up to stare tenderly at Jian Chen's handsome face. As if obsessed, her head slowly leaned against Jian Chen's shoulder as she closed her eyes to feel the warmth of his body with her own. Jian Chen let out a drawn-out sigh as he calmed himself down. Allowing Huang Wan to rest on his shoulders, he lowered his head slightly to study this beauty, who seemed to be sleeping soundly, with a complicated expression. After a while, Jian Chen let another sigh to the ceiling and spoke, "Wanner, won't you regret what just happened? Am I truly worth your love?" Huang Wan's eyes slowly opened to stare lovingly at Jian Chen. With a shake of her head, she spoke, "I won't. For this entire lifetime, I won't regret this at all." Jian Chen. Tell me, am I truly in your heart? Huang Wan stared in anticipation. Jian Chen sighed and stared at Huang Wan with a complicated look. He was silent for a while before finally responding, "Wanner, I have no answer to give to you now. From the start, I never thought about settling down. There is far too much weight on my shoulders, and the pressure I face is tremendous as well. All I want right now is a way to become stronger." Huang Wan shook her head, "Jian Chen, that doesn't matter. Wanner is willing to wait. I'll wait, even if I have to wait until the end of time. Forever I will wait, forever." Jian Chen was taken aback. It was at this moment that his mind shook fiercely. Just how did he never realize that Huang Wan's feelings for him had reached such an unbelievably deep level? However, he did not respond. He merely wrapped his arms around Huang Wan's back and began to take in the scent coming from her body. Today would be the very first time he was ever intimate with a female, and today would also be the very first time he would hug the delicate body of a young woman. Such an experience left an impact on Jian Chen. The very beauty of the sensation ingrained itself within Jian Chen's soul and branded itself into his mind. He would never forget this moment. If that were the case, then he might as well add more to preserve this moment even more. Together in this room, the two of them let this comfortable feeling envelope them. Time in this serene moment was completely forgotten by this bewitched couple. After an indeterminate amount of time, the sounds of footsteps could be heard coming up the pavilion. Then, the hurried voice of a middle-aged man could be heard, "Wanner, are you there? Your father has some good news to tell you." Upon hearing his voice, the two were like startled rabbits as they split apart from one another. Smoothing their clothes and returning to their normal expressions, they tried to pretend that nothing had happened. The family head Huang Qinglan came walking into the pavilion with a succinct white robe when Jian Chen and Huang Wan saw him. With a smile, he spoke, "Wanner, your father has some good news to tell you. After you hearing this, you'll definitely..." While he was speaking, the family head suddenly realized that Jian Chen had beaten him here. He instantly grew stunned enough to pause mid-speech. "Lord Huang." Jian Chen cupped his hands nonchalantly with a smile on his face. The head of the family regained his wits at that moment and gave an even wider smile. Cupping his hands in return, he spoke, I did not think the Imperial Protector would be here. This matter was all thanks to the help of the Imperial Protector, and now Wanner will be trouble-free. The Lord is too courteous. Miss Huang Wan is merely a good friend of this one. If she were to come across any trouble, this one should help anyways. Jian Chen answered. The head of the family smiled, but his eyes hovered between Jian Chen and Huang Wan in observation. Despite the two of them pretending that nothing had happened, the man was experienced in such matters and could detect a few peculiarities. What made the man overjoyed was the fact that Jian Chen's eyes were completely different than before. They had changed so that Jian Chen was now looking at him like a future son-in-law looking to his father-in-law. I presume that the Imperial Protector has already told Wanner the news. If that is the case, I have nothing more to say. With that, the man turned to look at Huang Wan. Wanner, the Imperial Protector has wasted no small efforts on this matter. Even our ancestor has made an effort on this matter in person. You must make sure to express your thanks to him. Your daughter understands. Huang Wan spoke with a voice as low as a mosquito. Take your time to chat. I have some other matters to take care of, so I shall take my leave first. Huang Qinglan didn't have any intention to stay here any longer, so he quickly left the pavilion. After Huang Qinglan left, only Jian Chen and Huang Wan were left. For a while, neither of the two spoke, creating a rather awkward atmosphere. It was finally after a moment of silence that Huang Wan spoke. Jian Chen, you brought the Qinhuang kingdom into this now. Will they truly help you in this matter though? Don't worry. The Qinhuang kingdom has no relation to this matter at all. I have another extremely strong senior that has come to help us. This senior's might is far stronger than the Qinhuang kingdom, so your ancestor was more than willing to agree as well. Jian Chen spoke. Huang Wan's heart was moved once more. She knew just how difficult it was to invite any strong senior to make an appearance for anyone. Aside from having a very close relationship, one would have to pay a disastrous price for their help. Jian Chen remained in Huang Wan's room for some time before finally leaving. Then, at the behest of the ancestor of the Huang family, he remained for another day. On the next day, he and Ming Dong both bade farewell to Huang Wan and the ancestor to head back to the Jessen kingdom. Friends Jian Chen and Ming Dong, this old man knows about the burned bridge between you and the sect of Dragon and Tiger. I shall give these 2 twin jade pieces to you. If the saint ruler tries to do something, just crush these jade pieces and this old man will come as soon as I can to help. The ancestor spoke as he handed 2 thumb-sized jade pieces to Jian Chen and Ming Dong. After knowing of the intimate connection between the two and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, the ancestor had spared no effort to get on the good side of the two. With this method, the Huang family could possibly scale the giant tree that was the Grand Elder and perhaps gain the same treatment that the ancient clans would usually receive. Many thanks for Senior's kindness. This one will remember it. Jian Chen took the jade piece happily. Over these past days, the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger had weighed constantly on Jian Chen's mind. Right now the ancestor was definitely willing to help stop the saint ruler from the sect. This was a very good way to resolve his biggest problem at hand. Ha 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 ha. My friend Jian Chen is far too polite. If there is ever any need for my Huang family, then please just ask. Our family will do our best to assist. The elder couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 527, Murky Skies. Jian Chen and Ming Dong both left the Huang family. However, Ming Dong was not a heaven saint master and could not fly through the sky, therefore, Jian Chen needed to carry him. Seeing how his legs trailed behind him through the sky, Ming Dong had a yearning look on his face. With a sigh of admiration, he spoke, Jian Chen, being a heaven saint master seems great. Not only can you fly through the sky, you can go fast and at your own leisure as well. I really hope that I can hurry up and become a heaven saint master. Jian Chen could only chuckle in response. What are you hurrying for? Being able to become a sixth cycle Earth Saint Master at your young age is not something most can do. With your current strength, I don't even know just how many people are envious of it. There's only a short amount of time before you become a Heaven Saint Master anyways. Give it 2 years or so before you become one. For now, just focus on refining your foundation and listen to Uncle Tian. You can't go wrong listening to him. I know that much as well, but when I see just how easily you all fly through the sky, I feel an urgent feeling in my heart. I simply want nothing more than to become a Heaven Saint Master. That way, I will be able to fly through the air by myself. Ming Dong spoke. That day isn't too far away. It's been half a year already, all that remains is another 2.5 years. That's not a long time, it'll come quickly. Jian Chen replied. You're right, I just can't wait until that day, that's all. Ming Dong spoke with an expectant look on his face. Becoming a Heaven Saint Master was a dream for every single cultivator that had not yet reached such a realm. Suddenly, Ming Dong remembered something. His eyes turned to look at Jian Chen with a gleam. Jian Chen, just what happened between you and Huang Wan now? Jian Chen immediately thought about the lingering emotions he had felt between him and Huang Wan within her pavilion. A complicated expression arose on his face as he grew quiet. Let's not talk about that. I've no time to consider settling down. I've still plenty of things to do and plenty of responsibilities to shoulder still. Is it because of the Shi and Jita families? Ming Dong asked with a serious expression. The Shi family and the Jita clan were both problems that Uncle Tian had been unwilling to resolve, leaving the problem to Jian Chen and Ming Dong to resolve by themselves. With saint rulers holding a position in both families, the two powers held a significant amount of pressure over Jian Chen and Ming Dong. Jian Chen gave a curt nod. Back then, I killed the experts of the Shi family and Jita clan and even destroyed the ruler armaments from their families. This has led me into a never-ending cycle with them, and since I am not a saint ruler, I simply have no way to defend myself against them. Saint ruler. Upon hearing those two words, Ming Dong showed a look of yearning on his face. The enticement brought forth from the power of a saint ruler was truly too great. This was simply a whole new domain to step into. Jian Chen, Uncle Tian once said that to become a saint ruler, one must be able to comprehend the mysteries of the world. Are you attempting to understand them now as an aside? Ming Dong asked. Jian Chen shook his head. Understanding the mysteries of the world requires a foundation built off of the energy of the world. As long as one reaches a pinnacle state with their control over the energy of the world, they will be able to touch and start to comprehend the mysteries of the world. Although my power of thought is far stronger than any other Heaven Saint Master, my comprehension over the energy of the world is still superficial and nowhere close to being able to understand the mysteries of the world. When the day comes for me to reach a deep level of comprehension, I will naturally try to understand the domain that is the mysteries of the world. But this is a path with no shortcuts. Ming Dong revealed a crestfallen look, so it seems that we can only take one step at a time then. 2 days later, Jian Chen and Ming Dong finally returned to Changyang Manor. Xiao Tian and the others had been extremely curious on how they had managed to disappear so suddenly. It was because of their extreme confidence in Jian Chen's strength that they did not panic when the two had disappeared. However, they did wonder just what business was so important for the two to disappear so out of the blue. No one found it prudent to ask where Jian Chen had gone off to, for they simply had no right to ask. Even Jian Chen's parents Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian did not ask Jian Chen. As parents, they knew that their own child had already matured to become an independent man capable of doing his own thing. His own position and responsibilities were no longer within the domain of the two. After exchanging several words of greeting with everyone, Jian Chen walked by himself to his own personal hall. Increasing in speed, his footsteps finally took him to his expansive bedroom where his bed was. Seated at the head of the bed was the white tiger cub with its head still drooped down in slumber. By its side were several thousand-year-old ginseng and other ingredients. Seeing the scant amount of heavenly resources left, Jian Chen revealed a worried look on his face. I left a large pile of heavenly resources, but now there's only a small amount remaining. AI, the tiger cub's appetite grows more and more each day. With that, Jianchen retrieved another pile of heavenly resources and placed them beside the cub before walking out. Afterward, Jianchen remained in the Changyang clan for 2 days. In those 2 days, he spent the time with his group of friends and the Princess Yulan within the interior of the manor. On the second day, Qin Ji had received a letter from the Qinhuang Kingdom, prompting him to return to the Qinhuang Kingdom as soon as possible. Having received the letter, Qin Ji had no plans to stay in Changyang Manor any longer. Bidding farewell to Jianchen, he and the 5 other imperial advisors made an impromptu exit. However, Xiao Tian, the other 4 imperial advisors, and the 3 generals remained behind. A party of the Eastern deity soldiers remained stationed in Lore City while another party had been garrisoned at the Changyang clan. Jianchen wore an expensive white robe as he accompanied Sans and his mother around the area. Sans and his mother had received a cordial level of treatment from Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian, causing the son and mother pair to gain a high level of treatment within the clan. They had been given their own courtyard and servants to wait on them. The head caretaker of the clan, Chang Wuji, had even stipulated that the expenditures from the 2 would be footed by the Changyang clan, and a specialized group of soldiers would stand guard over the 2. Such a treatment like this was basically on par with the treatment of the master of the family, Changyang Ba. Sans and his mother had been very well behaved and had lived in content within the Changyang clan. Although they would stroll outside of the manor to see the hustle and bustle of Lore City, they would never buy anything. When Jianchen found Sans and his mother, it seemed the 2 were in discussion. Their eyebrows were creased together, and there was a thoughtful but embarrassed look on their faces. "Auntie, Sans, have you become accustomed to living here yet? If there is anything you need, please seek Uncle Chang. Uncle Chang will make sure to meet your expectations." Jianchen smiled. Jianchen's sudden visit caused Sans and his mother to be surprised. Bolting upright, they said respectfully, "We pay our respects to the 4th master." The mother even bent over in salute. In their short time within the Changyang clan, Sans and his mother gained a deep understanding of the character Jianchen. They knew that his status within the clan was as high as it could possibly be, and that he was also the imperial protector of the Jessen kingdom. Such a tremendous difference in status between him and them caused the mother and son to feel extremely panicked. "Auntie, Sans, we are all family here, there is no need to be too polite." Jianchen used his mind to control the energy of the world and temporarily freeze the area around the mother and son so that they could not bow to him any longer. The 2 of them were the family of Kendall, just how could Jianchen let them bow to him? Jianchen walked freely over to the nearby table and sat down with a smile. "Auntie, Sans, come and sit. I saw you 2 talking earlier, was there something troubling you?" The mother and son hesitated for a moment before Sans finally said something first. "4th master, my mother and I are extremely grateful for your consideration for our well-being, but the 2 of us had already grown accustomed to our ordinary lives from before. Living here like this is still a bit strange, so my mother and I wish to move out." Jianchen's eyebrows creased together as he listened, but before he could speak, the mother beat him to it. "4th master, my son is correct. The 2 of us are not ones to live our lives in luxury and nobility. We truly cannot adjust ourselves to such a lifestyle. I wish to use the savings I have to purchase an inn in Lore City and continue my days working there if the 4th master allows it." Jianchen continued to think for a moment, but in the end he valued the opinion of the 2 and sighed. "Very well then. If Auntie and Sans wish to live such a lifestyle, I can only support your endeavors. Auntie, I will have Uncle Chang take care of the arrangements, so you needn't worry about the matters with the inn for now." An extremely far distance away from the Jessen kingdom, a suspended shrine could be seen floating 100 meters up in an empty space. "Grand Elder, we have recently discovered the men from the Bloodsword sect moving about, but they are mostly moving around the coastal areas in frequent amounts." An elder cupped his hands respectfully. Right in front of him was a middle-aged man that floated in mid-air. This was the Uncle Tian of Mingdong, Tian Jian. Bloodsword sect. Tianjian's eyebrows narrowed together. It has been 1,000 years since their last movement on the continent. If they're appearing now and near the coast, just what in the world are they planning? Grand Elder, could the Blood Sword sect possibly be planning something big? Another elder wondered aloud. Muttering to himself, Tianjian spoke. It has been 1,000 years since Houston retired from the Tianyuan continent to live in seclusion without a care for the continent. If the Blood Sword sect is appearing out of nowhere now, Tianjian's eyes narrowed as he thought. After a while, Tianjian sighed and smoothed out his eyebrows. 23rd Elder, from now on, report these matters to the 2nd and 3rd Elder. There is no need to report to me. Yes, Grand Elder. The elder retreated afterward. After the elder had left, Tianjian's legs fell to the ground to let him walk. His hands were placed behind his back as he stared at the murky sky with a spellbound look. Chapter 528, The Huanggu clan within the Changyang clan. Jianchen gathered Mingdong, Dugufeng, Yunzheng, and Senior and all together around a round table. Jianchen looked around the table with a glint before clearing up his thoughts. After muttering to himself, he said, now that the problems of the Jessen kingdom are all but resolved, we all should start to do our own things now. Mingdong's eyes sparkled. Jianchen, are you talking about the flame mercenaries? Correct, the flame mercenaries is exactly what I'm talking about. Jianchen continued, I returned to the Jessen kingdom after such a long time, but I also had plans to see just how much the flame mercenaries have developed. Yet, with so many problems that got in the way, I had no time to go and check on the mercenaries until today. With everything said and done with, I shall make use of my remaining energy to manage the flame mercenaries. Jianchen, just where did you establish this mercenary group? I have never heard of it before, let alone know how strong it is. Yunjing asked. I didn't create the flame mercenaries, I am just merely the second captain. It's been 2 years since I left, so if they didn't change locations, they should still be in Wake City of Blue Wind Kingdom. As for their strength. At this point, Jianchen had an embarrassed smile on his face. Well, wait until you see it, you'll understand then. Huh, Jianchen. I've heard that you owned a mercenary group, but I have never heard of it either. We should head to Wake City so I can see just what this mercenary group of yours is like. Mingdong chuckled. When do we leave? Dugufeng spoke. Compared to everyone else, he was more detached. Even when he was speaking, his face was expressionless. Hearing that, Jianchen muttered, before we head to Wake City, I wish to go somewhere else first. You should all stay in Changyang Manor for a while. Wait for me to return, then we'll head out. Afterward, when everyone was about to leave, Jianchen pulled Mingdong aside. Mingdong, you come with me. I want to introduce a friend to you. Alright, where to then? Mingdong asked succinctly. Kargath Academy. Jianchen and Mingdong both left the Changyang clan with Jianchen carrying him to Kargath Academy. To the south, there was a forest where magical beasts could be found littered everywhere. This forest was known as the Misty Forest since there was a dense layer of mist covering the forest throughout the entire year. The deeper one went into the forest, the more dense the mist got, making it very easy for a person to get lost. According to the records left behind by those before, the Misty Forest used to be an ordinary forest with a decent amount of magical beasts residing within it. But 1,000 years later, a sudden mist rolled into it for no reason at all. At first everyone had been curious to know the reason why it appeared, prompting plenty of braggarts and strong mercenaries to head into the forest to investigate. From all that tried, not a single one had returned. The disappearance of anyone that left for the forest did not strike fear into the hearts of the mercenaries. Instead, it had bolstered them and caused even more mercenaries to believe that there was some sort of treasure within the forest. Spurred by their greedy hearts, plenty of mercenary groups had banded together to form a large-scale attempt to scour the entire forest. After several days, only a meager few heavily injured men came stumbling out from the forest despite thousands of people enter it. All of them had repeated the same shocking information. Within the abyss of the forests, there was Class 6 magical beasts. This piece of information was like a clap of thunder to the hearts of every mercenary there. The cities around the misty forest were all second and third class cities where a Class 5 magical beast was already far too strong of an entity. A Class 6 magical beast was an entity they could only look up to. A beast like that could destroy a second-class city with ease. All of the surrounding kingdoms had quickly received this information, prompting them all to dispatch plenty of Heaven's Saint Masters. They were to rapidly respond to the abyss of the misty forest in hopes of killing and extracting their monster cores. On the Tianyuan continent, Class 6 magical beasts were existences that only lived in the Cross Mountains. In the eyes of humanity, the Cross Mountains were a forbidden zone where anyone beneath a Heaven's Saint Master was guaranteed to die there. Thus, Class 6 magical beasts were very rare to see outside of it. Whenever one did appear, every nearby party would immediately head out to hunt it. Every single Heaven's Saint Master that had gone into the forest had come out with dismayed expressions without exception. There had been no sounds of battle the entire time they were in the forest, leaving every single spectator who were looking forward to seeing the Heaven's Saint Master's battle, disappointed. The deterrence brought forth by the misty forest had multiplied in the hearts of the mercenaries because of this situation. Soon, rumors were spread throughout the land, and although they weren't enough to shake the continent, practically every single person within hundreds of thousands of kilometers knew about the situation. From that moment on, every mercenary knew that there was something hidden within the misty forest that scared even Heaven's Saint Masters away. While many mercenaries would still hunt for magical beasts in the misty forest, they would stay in the outer area. No one dared to go deeper in it. Aside from the Heaven's Saint Masters who entered the forest, not a single person would be able to imagine that hidden within the deepest parts of the forest would be a giant building. There were several other buildings built around it, but the mist never reached into the area of these buildings. Within the center of these buildings, there was a single tower that was about 1 kilometer in height. On the first story, several elders could be seen smiling and chatting. Among this group were the elders Feng and Yun from the Huang family. Elder Feng, Elder Yun, it is rare to see the two of you come by my Huanggu family. Why don't you stay for some time within my household? A crane-hairstyled elder spoke. This elder wore a plain white robe, but there was the air of a scholar to him. Lord Jiang, the two of us always come by here for a reason. This time, it is for an important matter. Elder Feng spoke with a difficult expression as if he found what he was about to say quite embarrassing. Just what matter could it be for you two elders to personally come running over? Did the Hongfu clan do something new? The head of the Huanggu clan asked. Elder Feng shook his head before taking out a letter from his space ring to give to the head. Lord Jiang, please take a look. The head of the Huanggu clan took the letter and opened it up. When he saw the inner contents of the letter, the smile on his face was wiped away, forming a difficult expression. With a low voice, he said, Your Huang family has decided to absolve the betrothment? Elder Feng, Elder Yun, just what is the meaning of your Huang family? The two elders revealed apologetic smiles as they cupped their hands. Lord Jiang, please calm yourself. This decision came from our ancestor himself. Upon hearing mention of the ancestor, the face of Lord Jiang grew even more serious. Tossing the letter onto the table, he spoke with a still difficult expression. Elders, what does your ancestor mean by this? This betrothment was suggested to us by him, and now he wishes to cancel it. Does he see my Huanggu clan as something to tease? Lord Jiang, we truly are sorry. There is already another in the heart of our young miss, so our Huang family does not wish to forcibly break her heart. Thus, this betrothment should be dropped. If we offended the Huanggu clan in any way, please forgive us. Elder Yun spoke apologetically. What kind of young lord could your young miss possibly fall in love with that would have your ancestor break off this betrothment? The head of the Huanggu clan inquired. The man our young miss has taken a liking to is the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom. Elder Feng spoke with a faint smile. His heart could already predict just what type of expression the head of the Huanggu clan would make. Sure enough, upon hearing mention of the imperial protector of the Qin Huang kingdom, the face of the man showed some fear run through it. Then he revealed a cold smile. Is that so? So your Huang family has found the tree known as the Qin Huang kingdom to climb. Indeed, with the Qin Huang kingdom, your Huang family wouldn't fear the threat known as the Hongfu clan. There was fury that could barely be contained within the Lord's heart. The young Miss Huang Wan possessed an exceptional talent. At the age of 20 she had already reached the realm of an Earth Saint Master. This was something the Huanggu clan had highly favored. They had tried an infinitesimal amount of ways to get her into their clan, but the Huang family had constantly rejected them. It was finally after half a year when the Hongfu clan greatly changed that caused the Huang family to feel pressured. It had been so much that they had taken the initiative to try and link their family to the Huanggu clan by marriage in an attempt to combine their power to deter the Hongfu clan from starting anything. This proposal had been something that the Huanggu clan had been all too happy to accept. If their Huanggu clan could join with the Huang family, then their combined power could plateau with the Hongfu clan and scare them away from attacking. In the case that a fight broke out while the two sides were of equal strengths, then it would only lead to an internecine aftermath. There was no way the Hongfu clan would dare risk that. It could be said that this marriage between the Huang family and the Huanggu clan was for the sake of military deterrence and not for actual warfare with the Hongfu clan. For that reason, the Huanggu clan had been delighted to agree to this marriage. Now that the Huang family had decided to break off this marriage, the leader of the Huanggu clan was all too displeased. They had valued Huang Wan quite highly, and the person she was supposed to be married to was the dearly loved son of Lord Jiang. There was no way he wouldn't be angry about this. Elders, please excuse yourselves. I must bring this matter to my ancestor to report so that he may speak to your own ancestor for the reason. Lord Jiang waved his hand with a temperament similar to the way an emperor would expel foreigners from his lands. Chapter 529, Return to Kargath Academy. Without any other choice, the elders Feng and Yun left the Huanggu clan. The head of the clan remained there with his eyes narrowed together in thought. Soon, he headed up the tallest level of the tower. The Huanggu clan highly valued Huang Wan so much that even the ancestor for their clan was highly interested in having her as an addition to their clan. With the sudden absolvement, it was imperative that the clan leader announce this matter to him. The man walked up to the highest tower before coming to a stop at the closed doors. With a respectful voice, he said, "Descendant Jiang Tao is here with a report for the ancestor." After a heavy layer of silence, an elderly voice could be heard from the other side, "Speak." "Ancestor, the Huang family has cancelled the betrothment between Huang Wan and our Huanggu clan. In our place, they have chosen an imperial protector from the Qin Huang kingdom." Jiang Tao replied respectfully. "What? Cancelling the betrothment for an imperial protector from the Qin Huang kingdom?" The tone from the elderly man on the other side of the door was noticeably angry. Hearing the angry voice of the elder, Jiang Tao was slightly confused. Although he knew that the ancestor highly valued Huang Wan, he never expected to see that the ancestor would be so influenced by her to such a degree. Despite his confusion, he didn't dare ask about it. Instead, he replied, "Yes, ancestor. The men from the Huang family just came by with the news." Another silence descended behind the doors. After a while, a voice could be heard again, "Very well. I know now, you may leave." This time, the elderly voice had calmed down. "Yes, ancestor. Descendant Jiang Tao will take his leave." Jiang Tao gave a respectful bow to the door before heading back down. After Jiang Tao left, the doors began to slowly open to reveal a blue-robed elder with a dark expression. As he walked out, his eyebrows could be seen furrowed together. "The Huang family has matched that Huang Wan girl to the imperial protector of the Qin Huang kingdom. Did that imperial protector find out that girl possesses the water spirit's body? No, there's no way. Unless he practices the scripture of the aqua sunflower, he shouldn't have any possible way to see the secrets of the water spirit's body. The ancestor muttered to himself. After some hesitation, he finally bit his lip. No, the water spirit's body is far too important. I must investigate this matter. The elder instantly disappeared into a flash of light that escaped from his tower and out into the misty forest. From far within the borders of the Jessen kingdom, Jian Shen flew with Ming Dong for 1,000 kilometers before finally arriving at their destination, Kargath Academy. Descending to the area around Kargath Academy, the two of them began to walk in. As soon as they were about to walk past the gates, the guard at the gates immediately blocked their path. My lords, please show me proof of studentship here. Otherwise, I cannot let you in. These are the regulations of this academy. The guard could tell from the luxurious clothes and the aura of the two that they were very important people, so he spoke in a more respectful voice. Jian Shen smiled and took out a badge from his space ring. Are we allowed in now? In the past, Jian Shen had been a student of Kargath Academy, so it was only natural that he still had proof of him being a student. Please enter, my lords. With that, the guard stopped the two no more. He gave a wave and a smile. Without any other problems, Jian Shen and Ming Dong entered Kargath Academy. Despite Jian Shen being gone for so long, Kargath Academy hadn't changed at all. The biggest change was that the trees that had been planted a long time ago at the academy had grown by a large amount. It was quite lively within Kargath Academy as countless students could be seen laughing and walking around the campus. Many of them were around the age of 18 and 19, sometimes an even older student would appear. Jian Shen, is this really the academy you used to study at? It doesn't seem like much. Some of these students are barely at the saint level, some don't even have a saint weapon materialized. Ming Dong spoke with some disbelief as he looked around the place. Jian Shen laughed. Do you think that everyone is like you and can become an Earth Saint Master at your age? Although there are many geniuses on the Tianyuan continent, the Jessen Kingdom is a tiny place. Just having one or two appear would be amazing enough. How could there be multiple? Ming Dong found Jian Shen's words reasonable and agreed. That much is true, but Jian Shen, just who did you bring me here to find? Is it someone that has caught your eye in skill? You'll find out in a moment. Let's go find the headmaster for now. He'll know the whereabouts of the friend I have in the academy. This friend of mine has a decent talent. He seems to even be blessed. His physical strength is something even I greatly admire. Jian Shen admitted. If you say it like that, then I really want to meet this friend of yours. Ming Dong laughed with interest. The two of them continued on their way to the tower at center of the academy. This was the most authoritative place of power within the academy, and was where the headmaster Kafir would be. Just at that moment, a clamor could be heard. Everyone come quickly. The second strongest student, Ka Diyun, has challenged the strongest student to a fight. This will be a stupendous battle that can absolutely not be missed. What? Ka Diyun challenging the first seat? Didn't Ling Jingtian make the breakthrough to become a saint master half a year ago? Ka Diyun is only a high-grade saint. Isn't he only inviting humiliation to himself with this challenge? What do you know? According to the rumors, Ka Diyun made the breakthrough to become a saint master half a month ago. His strength is practically on par with Ling Jingtian. That can't be. Ka Diyun made a breakthrough to become a saint master? That rate of cultivation speed is far too fast. He's only younger than Ling Jingtian by 2 years. How could he become a saint master so quickly? He's practically the fastest cultivator within Kargath Academy. Bah, who's the one that said Ka Diyun is the fastest cultivator in Kargath Academy? Have you all never heard about the eldest son of the Changyang clan, Changyang Hu? He is a fellow student of ours and made the breakthrough to become a great saint master last year. He left Kargath Academy after that, otherwise, no student would be a match for him aside from the teachers here. Che. Who cares for Changyang Hu? Did you not hear about the fourth master of the same clan, Changyang Shangtian? I heard that he was once a student within our Kargath Academy. As soon as he entered, he became the champion of the newcomer students that year. His strength is far too amazing, and I bet no one in the academy could contend with him. Changyang Shangtian? I know about him. A single 18-year-old girl had immediately leaped up and down at the mention of Changyang Shangtian's name. I know of Changyang Shangtian, he's currently the imperial protector for our Jessen kingdom. That means his status is even higher than the headmaster. I heard that he's at the Heaven Saint Master realm as well. That's just far too amazing. He only just became 20 years old or so as well. What? Just barely 20 years old and already a Heaven Saint Master as well as the Imperial Protector for our Jessen Kingdom? You're dreaming. How could that be possible? Even the most talented person wouldn't be able to become a Heaven Saint Master at the age of 20. Another male student spoke in disbelief as doubt clouded his words. Many of the surrounding students began to give the doubtful student a very perplexed glance. Then one person spoke, "Fellow classmate, have you not moved out from your hole in the ground or something? Just who doesn't know about the grand name of Changyang Shangtian, the fourth master of the Changyang clan? This is a fact that has been undeniably proved true without a chance to be considered false." Another person piped in, "I heard that Changyang Shangtian earned some animosity with Ka Di Yun when he first entered Kargath Academy. I don't know if that's true or not though." That's correct, something like that had truly happened. One of the older students spoke confidently with his hands on his hips. "I saw when Changyang Shangtian entered the academy. In the newcomer tournament, Changyang Shangtian defeated Ka Di Liang and Ka Di Chioli for the title of first place. Both Ka Di Liang and Ka Di Chioli were unable to accept this defeat and challenged Changyang Shangtian again. But still, they lost. In the end, even Ka Di Yun, who had only just materialized his saint weapon, had challenged him. Yet, like his family members, he lost to the hands of Changyang Shangtian. I heard at that point Changyang Shangtian was only at the 8th Saint Force layer. Wah, is that true or not? Changyang Shangtian is too amazing then. Every single student around the area let out a surprised sigh of worship after hearing that. What are you all talking about here? Suddenly, a cold voice could be heard as a cyan-colored skirt-wearing girl stood on the outskirts of the crowd. She shot an icy glare at everyone. This woman was exceedingly pretty with delicate features. Although she was not so beautiful to bring a country to its knees, she was still quite the beauty that could rarely be seen. By the woman's side was another rather handsome-looking youth that looked to be around 22 to 23 years old. As this male and female walking forward, all of the students that had been gossiping had immediately gone quiet. Straight away, many of the students began to greet the two with a flattering laugh. "So it's Sis Ka Di Chioli and Senior Ka Di Liang. Sis Ka Di Chioli, Senior Ka Di Liang, hello." As of right now, the three siblings from the Ka Di clan were Kargath Academy's most influential figures. Practically every single student that attended the academy would know their names since the three siblings were all very strong. Ka Di Yun had been able to become a Saint Master and was on par with the strongest student in the academy. Ka Di Chioli and Ka Di Yun were both cultivators at the same level of strength. They were advanced great saints with just a small marginal step until the Saint Master realm. Of the top 10 strongest students in Kargath Academy, the three siblings held 3 spots. Third sister, don't bother with them. Big brother's match is about to begin. We should hurry to where brother is about to fight. Ka Di Liang spoke to Ka Di Chioli by his side. Then pulling Ka Di Chioli in the direction of the fighting arenas, the two of them left with a rather unwell expression on their faces. As Ka Di Chioli was being pulled away by Ka Di Liang, an unhappy smile could be seen on her face. In her mind, she was still unable to forget about the dissatisfaction brought by Changyang Shangtian several years ago. The two siblings were quite aware of the matters of the outside world, but she would never be able to believe that the Changyang Shangtian she and her brother had once fought against would rise by such a terrifying degree in such a short amount of time. A Heaven Saint Master was something the three siblings could only look up and dream about. The students who had been discussing among each other quite energetically followed the two siblings toward the area where the fighting arenas were. Just several meters away, Jian Chen and Ming Dong were easily within earshot of the entire exchange. Jian Chen, I didn't think that you would be such an influential person in such a place. TSK, how amazing you are if you were actually able to defeat a saint with a saint weapon when you were only at the 8th layer. That's even better than I was at your age. Ming Dong teased Jian Chen from the side. Hearing that, Jian Chen couldn't help but think back to the memories of the past with a faint smile. A child can only play house at such an age, it's not worth mentioning. In the past, the three Kadi siblings had an interesting situation between us. Now that so many years have passed, I didn't think that the three siblings would still be here in the academy. Come on, let's go see what's happening. Chapter 530, Seeing Tai Ta Again, 1. By the time Jian Chen and Ming Dong arrived at the arenas, the surrounding area was already packed with students. Hundreds of them were whispering to one another around the ring, but both Ka Di-yun and Ling Jingtian were nowhere near to be seen. The match between Ka Di-yun and Ling Jingtian seemed to be extremely important to the audience. Jian Chen waited for a moment longer, and in just a short amount of time, the crowd of students grew more and more into the thousands until it seemed as if the majority of the students in the academy had gathered. Who do you think's going to win? Are you kidding? Of course it'll be Ling Jingtian. Ka Di-yun may have become a saint master and is on equal footing with Ling Jingtian now, but Ling Jingtian has been a saint master for so long. With his talent, I bet he's already a middle saint master in strength. Ka Di-yun's no match for him. Ka Di-yun has challenged every single one of the top 10 students without a single loss. Now that he's challenging Ling Jingtian, I've no doubts that he'll win. All of the students around the arena were whispering to each other in excitement. Jian Chen and Ming Dong could only stand in the middle of the ocean of people and wait to see the spectacle. Jian Chen and Ming Dong were both extremely conspicuous with their white robes because every student here was wearing the academy uniform. Some of the students had even looked at them in amazement, but no one asked about them. While standing among the crowd with both hands against his chest, Jian Chen suddenly felt a distinct pair of eyes staring at him. When he turned his head to look, he only saw a rather beautiful woman staring attentively at him. Her eyes were like limpid autumn water in the light, but the expression in them carried a questioning glance. It was Ka Di Chioli. Compared to a few years ago, Ka Di Chioli had grown by quite the amount. Gone was her unruliness and impatience, and in its place was a more matured steadfastness. Even her beauty had grown by a decent amount. Although there had been some bad history between Jian Chen and the three siblings from the Ka Di clan, it was nothing more than small-time scuffles between children, harmless and of no major importance. This meant that Jian Chen bore no grudges against the three, so when Ka Di Chioli was staring at him, Jian Chen only gave a friendly nod to her in greeting before turning his eyes away. Ka Di Chioli stared attentively at the handsome face of Jian Chen with a thoughtful look. Her eyebrows furrowed together for a moment before lightly nudging Ka Di Liang by her side. Second brother, have you seen that man wearing the white robe before? I feel he looks somewhat familiar, as if I've seen him before. I just can't put my finger on it. Jian Chen had grown so much in these years that even his uncle Chang Wuji had been unable to recognize him, let alone Ka Di Chioli, who wasn't familiar with him at all. Ka Di Liang looked to Jian Chen after being prompted by his sister. Then, with a shake of his head, he smiled. I don't know just which son of nobility he is from, but he's quite handsome. Your second brother is quite jealous. Second brother, I feel that he is familiar to me, but I just don't know how and where. Do you not know who he is? Ka Di Chioli repeated. Ka Di Liang looked back at Jian Chen again with another shake of his head. I don't know, or else I've never seen him before. With that, Ka Di Liang gave a meaningful stare at Ka Di Chioli as he smiled mischievously. Third sister, that guy over there isn't too bad in looks. Are you trying to tell me you've taken a fancy to him? When we get back, your brother will have some people look into who he is for you. With a baleful glare at Ka Di Liang, Ka Di Chiuli wasted no more words with him and continued to think to herself. At that time, two figures suddenly came walking out from behind the crowd and onto the arena platform. These two men looked to be around 25 and 26 years old. They wore the uniform of Kargath Academy, and the moment they stepped onto the arena, the entire congregation exploded into discussions. Ka Diyun and Ling Jingtian have arrived. Ka Diyun, you can do it. Beat Ling Jingtian. Ling Jingtian will win. One after another the students of the academy shouted out in loud voices to cheer on the two combatants. Their voices continued for a decent amount of time before finally descending back into a lull. With the two fighters stepping onto the arena, Ka Di Chiuli had finally moved her eyes away from Jian Chen to look at her older brother Ka Diyun on the platform. Ka Diyun and Ling Jingtian exchanged several words of small talk with each other before simultaneously taking out their saint weapons. Ka Diyun's saint weapon was a two-handed sword while Ling Jingtian's was a long thin saber. With the appearance of their saint weapons, the fight had officially started. Ding ding clank clank clank, the sounds of the saint weapons smashing into each other could be heard while Ka Diyun fought with Ling Jingtian on top of the arena. Despite not being a fight to the death, their performance was something that seemed to make the students fall into a drunken stupor. A battle between saint masters was something that the saints and not yet saints felt invigorated by. Ka Diyun and Ling Jingtian fought for a while on top of the arena without victory being decided. However, Ming Dong had long since lost interest in the battle and did not wish to watch anymore. With him being an Earth Saint Master, watching two Saint Masters fight in front of him was like watching a kid show off to a professional. There was nothing to feel excited about from watching this. Tisk, I'll show you the strength of my battle skill. Just at that moment, Ka Diyun let out a loud shout and began to charge his saint force into his two-handed sword before slashing out at Ling Jingtian. Upon hearing the words battle skill, Ling Jingtian's face had blanched. With no time to dodge, he could only commit all of his strength to defending. Bang! A loud explosion could be heard as Ka Diyun's giant sword slammed against Ling Jingtian's saber. A battle skill was many times stronger than any regular strike, so the amount of power transmitted from Ka Diyun's sword to Ling Jingtian's saber had been enough to send Ling Jingtian back through the air. Finally coming to a stumble across the floor, Ling Jingtian couldn't help but let out a mouthful of blood. The audience, which had been quiet for some time, abruptly exploded into a cacophony of shouts as they began to shout out celebrations of Ka Diyun being the victor. Ka Diyun has won. Ka Diyun has defeated Ling Jingtian to become the strongest student in Kargath Academy. Ka Diyun is the strongest expert of our academy. Beneath the platform, Ka Di Chiuli and Ka Di Liang displayed ecstatic looks on their faces in excitement for the victory their older brother had just received. Ka Diyun stabbed his giant sword into the ground for everyone to see before shouting out in a heroically. Is there still anyone that isn't convinced? Come up and challenge me then. Today, I Ka Diyun will accept the challenge of anyone. Even the strongest student Ling Jingtian was defeated by the hands of Ka Diyun. Right now in Kargath Academy, there's no one that's a match for Ka Diyun. Ka Diyun has a battle skill, making him stronger than even some of the teachers at the academy. I bet even some of the teachers at the Earth Saint Master level wouldn't be a match for him. Many of the students were whispering to each other. Seeing how prideful Ka Diyun was, Ming Dong suddenly felt an idea hit him. Smiling, he said, "How impudent. I know I heard that he and you had some bad blood in the past. Jian Chen, let me play with him." Not even waiting for Jian Chen to respond, Ming Dong leaped onto the arena. Seeing Ming Dong hop onto the platform, Jian Chen couldn't do anything but shake his wistful head helplessly since he knew he couldn't stop him. A mighty sixth cycle Earth Saint Master bullying a single Saint Master, this was something that would make anyone a joke just for saying it. Ming Dong folded his arms across his chest as he smiled at the proud-looking Ka Diyun. "Kid, you're Ka Diyun, right? Let's fight, me and you." When everyone saw Ming Dong suddenly leap on top of the arena, every single student in the audience began to chat with each other. Since he was not wearing the uniform of Kargath Academy, everyone was curious to see who he was while Ka Di Liang and Ka Di Chioli stared closely at him. Who is that guy? I've never seen him before. He's not wearing our academy uniform. It doesn't seem like he's a student of Kargath Academy. Ka Di Liang muttered with furrowed eyebrows. Motioning for the student next to him, he whispered, "Go call for Headmaster Bayan. Tell him there's outsiders intruding in on Kargath Academy's business." Yes. That student was the son of the family responsible for guarding the Ka Di clan. He didn't hesitate to obey Ka Di Liang's order. In a flash, he began to run to the headmaster's quarters. Ka Dian looked at the white robes of Ming Dong with suspicious eyes before probing out with a question. "Are you not a student of Kargath Academy?" "You guessed correctly. I am not a student of Kargath Academy, so this fight shouldn't pose a risk to your standing in the academy whether you win or lose. So, how about it? Want to fight?" Ming Dong laughed with his arms pressed against his chest. "Of course we'll fight. I, Ka Di Yun, fear no single person. But, what is your name?" Ka Di Yun cupped his hands together. "I'll tell you my name after our match." Ming Dong laughed. He wasn't worried at all, this was nothing more than a joke to play with. Ka Di Yun could see that he wasn't too far away in age from Ming Dong, so he did not fear Ming Dong's strength. Very few people his age would be capable of beating him. "Despite you not being a student of Kargath Academy, I will nonetheless accept your challenge. Let's fight." Ka Di Yun's right hand grabbed his saint weapon, which had been stuck in the ground. He adopted a fighting stance while charging at Ming Dong. Chapter 531, Seeing Tai Ta again. 2. Ming Dong smiled happily at Ka Di Yun, but he made no moves to take out his saint weapon, just so that people won't say I was bullying children. I won't be too excessive. How about this? I'll stand here without moving and without striking back. If you can force me back or cause me to even take a single step back, I'll have lost. Sound good? Ming Dong began to de-emphasize himself. As an Earth Saint Master, he would really not be able to put a tiny Saint Master as an opponent in his eyes. Even if a battle skill was used, it wouldn't pose even an iota of a threat to him. The difference in power was just that big. Ming Dong's words were spoken very casually, but everyone in the audience was able to hear them loud and clear. Regarding Ming Dong as some sort of lunatic, some of the more violent students couldn't help but curse him out. Who does this kid think he is? How fucking cocky. He doesn't look too different than Ka Di Yun in age. If he's really talking like that, it won't just be death that he'll get. Who does he think he is? Even some of the teachers in our academy wouldn't dare speak to a battle skill wielder like Ka Di Yun. The arena had descended into a series of cursing as plenty of the more fiery students began to use their fingers to point at Ming Dong's nose and chew him out. Ka Di Liang and Ka Di Chioli both stared at him with narrowed eyes, but the fury in them was hardly invisible. What an egotistical kid, he's actually speaking to Big Brother with such haughty words. Big Brother has a battle skill that prevents even an advanced Great Saint Master from making the same claims as he does. Unless he's an Earth Saint Master. After that, Ka Di Liang's eyes revealed a look of contempt in them before snorting, but that's impossible. He doesn't look too different in age compared to Big Brother. If he's stronger than Big Brother, I don't doubt that, but there's no way he'd be at the Earth Saint Master level. Ka Di Chioli was muttering to herself with knit eyebrows as she stared at the confident look on Ming Dong's face. There was a feeling of unrest welling up within her, so she couldn't help but speak with worry. "Second brother, do you see how relaxed he looks? Do you think he'll have something to rely on? Second sister, you worry too much. Even if he has something to fall back on, just what could he use to take Big Brother's attack without damage? The way I see it, that outsider came here for the express purpose of challenging him. After this, I'll make sure to investigate his background thoroughly and just what his history is if he is willing to try and make things difficult for our Ka Di clan." Ka Di Liang coldly spoke. On the arena platform, Ka Diyun's face had turned quite difficult to look at as he stared dangerously at Ming Dong. "Your Majesty, you seem quite arrogant." "It is because I have the advantage to make me arrogant." Ming Dong continued to smile. Ka Diyun's face grew even darker. To his ears, Ming Dong's words were without a doubt a challenge to him. "Very well then. Allow me to see just what skill your Majesty has then." Ka Diyun spoke angrily. Without another word, his giant two-hander flew toward Ming Dong to cut him down. The giant sword carried a strong amount of Saint force with it as it flew through the air toward Ming Dong's waist with a faint whistling sound from its speed. Ming Dong's previous actions had clearly infuriated Ka Diyun, and combined with the fact that he was a foreigner and not a student of Kargath Academy, Ka Diyun held nothing back in this all-or-nothing strike. Ming Dong still displayed a giddy smile on his face as he watched Ka Diyun charge at him with his giant two-handed sword. He was still relaxed since such a strike wasn't something he would even register as a threat. As soon as the giant sword was about to chop down his waist, Ming Dong raised his right hand. Although this movement had been done very casually to him, it was practically fast beyond belief to the outside observers. Ming Dong's right hand was enveloped in a faint layer of the wind-attributed Saint force. In that split second, his forefinger and thumb had pinched together. In between those fingers, the giant two-hander had been caught. Ka Diyun's eyes abruptly dilated in disbelief at how Ming Dong had used two fingers to stop his sword. Even his heart began to surge with emotions as if he was in peril. "Wyo, you caught my saint weapon with two fingers." Ka Diyun couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. His entire face was painted with a look of shock. Ming Dong gave a mischievous smile. "What's so alarming about that? Kid, do you dare say I'm arrogant now?" Ka Diyun's face was quickly growing a pale green color as his eyes flashed with a dangerous gleam. "Just who are you, and why are you trying to make things difficult for me? I have no grievances with you. I merely wanted to play around with you and see the skill of the person that dared challenge my brother in the past. As for who I am, defeat me and I'll naturally tell you." Ming Dong displayed a ruminating look on his face as he released the sword that had been clamped with his fingers. "Continue to attack. Use your full strength. Only then will you have a sliver of a chance of forcing my hand. Naturally, you don't need to worry. I won't bully a child, so you won't have to fear getting injured." This time, Ka Diyun was not infuriated by the humiliating and condescending tone of Ming Dong. After this exchange, he had already come to realize just how strong Ming Dong was compared to him. Ka Diyun's hands gripped his giant sword tightly as he glared at Ming Dong as if he was a viper. With a loud shout, he once again utilized his battle skill. His giant sword once more rippled with Saint force as it shot toward Ming Dong. A Saint Master using a battle skill would usually mean that it was the lowest tiers of the human tier battle skill, but even a great Saint Master wouldn't be able to receive it head-on. Ming Dong's hand began to flow with an even richer amount of wind-attributed Saint force now. Just as the giant sword of Ka Diyun was about to strike Ming Dong down, his hand flashed out and slapped the blade of the sword with incomparable precision. "Pa!" The crisp sound of the palm striking the sword could be heard. In front of Ming Dong, the amount of accumulated energy in the sword had been like an ant to him that could effortlessly be displaced with a single palm strike. Furthermore, the energy transmitted to the Saint weapon from the strike forced Ka Diyun to stagger back several meters while the arms holding his sword began to shake and go numb. Ka Diyun could only stare at Ming Dong, who was in front of him with wide-open eyes of shock. The waves in his heart reached a frenzied height instead of calming down from the sight in front of him. He could hardly believe his eyes when the very first strike, Ming Dong had clamped down on his sword with just two fingers despite Ka Diyun using all of his strength. Then, even after using his battle skill to the fullest efficiency, his opponent had only needed a single slap for the energy in the sword to be scattered before it could be released. The strength of his opponent was so strong that it shocked Ka Diyun down to his core. Ka Diyun was not the only one to be shocked at this scene. The entire audience had gone absolutely silent, with thousands of students standing nearly transfixed at the spot, just staring at the arena. Many of them had expression of disbelief on their faces. At this moment, Jian Shen may have very well been the only person to keep his calm out of thousands of people. Though, even he revealed a look of helplessness and a forced smile. Clapping his hands, Ming Dong looked at Ka Diyun with a smile. Beckoning for him with a finger, he spoke, "Come now, let's try again. You just need to put a little more effort to knock me back." Ka Diyun could barely keep the dark expression off of his face as he stared at Ming Dong with a disturbed mind. Ming Dong looked to be no older than 30 years old, meaning that they were roughly the same age. Except the strength he possessed was absolutely terrifying. Even after using his battle skill to his fullest, Ka Diyun had been unable to move Ming Dong. This was something that Ka Diyun found very hard to accept. "Sire, this is Kargath Academy. Outsiders are not permitted entry, and yet you have intruded anyways. You even interfered with a competition between students. Those are very serious violations of the rules of our Kargath Academy. Prepare yourself to receive punishment for it." At that moment, a stringently strict voice could be heard loud and clear through the grounds. At the same time the voice could be heard, a humanoid figure appeared in the blink of an eye before reappearing right in front of Ming Dong. It was a middle-aged man with a rather ordinary facial appearance. However, the might he contained and the light in his eyes was terrifying. It caused each and every one of the weaker students to feel unable to look at him directly. "It's the vice headmaster, he has arrived." Following the appearance of this middle-aged man, the entire audience began to break out in a chorus of welcoming sounds. The appearance of Vice Headmaster Biyao allowed Ka Diyun to show a relaxed look on his face, as well as becoming delighted at the thought of the pain that would befall Ming Dong. Turning to the Vice Headmaster, he spoke, "Vice Headmaster, he isn't a student of our Kargath Academy. Not only did he sneak into our academy grounds, he has meddled with the internal competitions of our academy. I will take care of this matter, you may head down." Biyao spoke to Ka Diyun with his back to him. He showed a serious expression to Ming Dong. Ka Diyun did not speak another word. Biyao's appearance had solved his earlier awkward conundrum of being unable to back out. So with that solved, he hopped off the platform. "So you're the vice headmaster of Kargath Academy, it's nice to meet you." Ming Dong smiled and cupped his hands in a polite salute to Biyao. Biyao did not loosen his expression. Glaring dangerously at Ming Dong, he spoke rather woodenly, "You've violated the rules of our Kargath Academy. Come with me to see the headmaster and accept your punishment." "Headmaster? Do you mean Kafir?" Ming Dong laughed. He felt no pressure at all since he and Kafir were very well acquainted with one another. Ming Dong's casual mention of Kafir's name caused Bian's face to blanch. Furiously, he spoke, "Impudence. For just what reason could the name of the headmaster be said so easily by you?" As soon as his speech ended, Biyao started to move toward Ming Dong with a flash of his sword coming out to stab at him. Chapter 532, Seeing Tai Ta Again, 3, Vice Headmaster Bian's sword traveled like an arc of lightning in an attempt to stab Ming Dong. His speed was far too fast for all of the students there to see his movements. Even the afterimages of the sword were impossible to spot. Whether it was in speed or power, a battle between Earth Saint Masters would be many times stronger than a battle between Saint Masters. For the students who were merely saints or perhaps great saints, they didn't possess the necessary strength to be able to carefully study this battle between Earth Saint Masters. Seeing how Biyao was personally taking part in this fight, every single student let out a sudden gasp and focused their eyes on the battle in front of them. Although they wouldn't be able to study the battle in great detail, there was still a fatal attraction to the match. In their eyes, a battle between Earth Saint Masters was all too rare. Also, none of the students had ever seen the Vice Headmaster fight. Ming Dong's figure remained completely still where he stood while Bian's sword stabbed through his chest without resistance. The students in the audience let out several gasps before crying out in cheers over Bayan's success. Those that didn't know of Ming Dong's strength figured that he had really been pierced through the chest by Bayan's sword. However, Bayan wasn't cheerful at all. Instead, his expression grew solemn due to the fact that his sword hadn't felt anything at all. His sword had pierced through a mirror image that was already starting to fade away. Vice Headmaster Bayan, you're too slow. I'm already behind you. Before Bayan could even turn around, Ming Dong could be heard speaking from behind him. Bayan was startled at this. He hadn't sensed Ming Dong make his way behind him at all, and judging from the closeness of the voice, Ming Dong was very close to his back. If Ming Dong were to strike at him, then it would be very hard for Bayan to dodge. As a veteran of hundreds of battle, there was no hesitation in Bayan's movements as he slid to the side while simultaneously turning around to stab at Ming Dong behind him. Ming Dong gently kicked off the platform with his entire body surrounded by wind-attributed Saint Force. Transforming into a cyan light, he easily dodged Bayan's strike. However, Bayan continued to chase down Ming Dong. His leg stomped across the platform with a speed like a recently shot arrow to stab his single-handed sword into Ming Dong's chest. Ming Dong wasn't angry. With a meaningful smile to Bayan, he retreated to the very edge of the platform before coming to a sudden stop. Then moving slightly to the left, he flew forward to cross by Bayan's side from the front. Just as the two crossed paths, Ming Dong's right palm began to swirl with wind-attributed Saint Force before gently striking Bayan's back. Bayan had followed Ming Dong to the very edge of the platform, but it had been hard for him to suddenly stop in his tracks. When Ming Dong had slapped his back, there had been enough forward force in the palm that Bayan was sent flying off the stage 30 meters into the air before he finally dropped to the ground. Even then, the momentum within the strike had not yet fully dissipated. It caused him to tumble across the ground several steps before coming to a miserable stop. Ming Dong and Bayan's fight had taken place in a split second with several exchanges, but the students hadn't been able to clearly see what the process of the match had been. However, there was one thing that was clear. Ming Dong was still standing on the arena while Bayan had somehow flown out from the arena at some point. According to the regulations of every fight on the arena, if one were to fall from the ring, then they would lose. With Bayan like this, it was very clear to see that he had lost. When everyone realized the results of the match, every single student could only stare with wide-open eyes in disbelief. Everyone could clearly see that their vice headmaster Bayan had completely this match lost against this unknown stranger. At this, even the three siblings from the Ka-di clan were speechless. They could only stand there in mute shock as they looked up at the arena. Although the three of them knew that the one standing on the arena was very strong, they didn't ever expect Ming Dong to be strong enough to the point where even the vice headmaster Bayan would lose to him as well. Don't tell me, is he actually an Earth Saint Master? Ka-di Liang found himself having difficulty speaking with the amount of shock he felt in his heart. Ming Dong looked rather young, close to his own brother in age, so he did not think that Ming Dong would be so strong. Ka-di Chioli and Ka-di Yun chose to stare at the arena with disbelieving eyes instead of answering their brother. With that expression on Ming Dong's face, the two of them had begun to feel a dangerous thought well up within them. Could it be that someone like their vice headmaster Bayan was an insignificant person in comparison to him? Like the others, Bayan looked back to Ming Dong in astonishment and complete surprise. As one of the two fighters in the match, he clearly felt that Ming Dong's strike had been relatively light despite causing him to lose. Squashing the shock in his heart, Bayan leaped back onto the stage. With a complicated stare, he then cupped his hands together. "Thank you, brother, for being lenient." The words of Bayan were, to the students, like a bomb that had exploded as it brought another wave of shock to them. Waving his hands in a carefree manner, Ming Dong spoke, "We are of the same side, and this was nothing more than for entertainment. If I were to really injure you, I'm afraid my brother would not let me off easily. Ha 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 ha." Friends, how could you not send me notice in advance of your coming? With me leading your welcome in person, would such a misunderstanding like this occur? Just at that moment, an elderly-sounding laugh could be heard from the sky as a white-robed figure descended with a smile. "It's the headmaster is here." Seeing the elderly figure, every single student immediately grew excited. Headmaster Kafir was an illustrious expert of the Jessan kingdom that held plenty of prestige in the eyes of the students. However, he was very rarely seen among the students. Some of the students had gone 4 or 5 years without seeing him even once. So, to see the headmaster now was an event that would cause no small amount of excitement for them. Descending slowly onto the arena grounds, the headmaster of Kargath Academy gave a soft smile to Ming Dong. "Headmaster Kafir, I didn't expect to see you here. This outsider seems to have violated some rule of your academy. I hope you will not grow angry over this." Ming Dong cupped his hands and smiled back at Kafir. No, how could I be? To have such a friend come sightsee around my Kargath Academy brings honor to it. I don't even have time to welcome you properly, let alone be angry." Kafir laughed merrily. Turning to look at Biyao, he spoke, "Biyao, your loss at the hands of my friend here is not wrong. If not for the leniency of my friend here, you would have fallen off this stage with severe wounds. Do not be as impulsive next time, understand?" "This one understands." Biyao gave a respectful answer and turned with a complicated expression to Ming Dong. Feeling curious about Ming Dong's identity, he cupped his hands and asked, "Might I know what to call this brother here?" Kafir laughed, "This friend here is called Ming Dong. He is an honored guest of our Jessan kingdom." "Biyao, you should know about the fame of Ming Dong here, I presume." "Ming Dong?" Biyao was taken back at first for a moment, but then the pondering expression on his face became a shocked one as he exclaimed, "Is he not the very same Earth Saint Master as the one who made use of a Heaven-tier battle skill to severely injure enemy Heaven Saint Masters at the Northern Stronghold, that Ming Dong?" Biyao had not been quiet with his exclamation, therefore, every single student had been able to hear his words loud and clear, sending them all into an uproar. "What? He's that Ming Dong from the Northern Stronghold? If he's that Ming Dong, then it's no wonder he's that strong. I heard that Ming Dong was already extremely close to becoming a Heaven Saint Master. He only just needs a single step to become one. I heard that with a Heaven-tier battle skill, he was able to injure several experts of the Heaven Saint Master realm." After the Battle of the Northern Stronghold, Ming Dong's name had been circulated around the Jessan kingdom like wildfire. Practically everyone and everybody had heard of him, including the students of Kargath Academy. This battle had made him the idol of many students and a person to worship. After knowing Ming Dong's identity, the faces of Ka Di-yun and his 2 siblings immediately lit up. So he was that Ming Dong? Ha, he is the hero that I, Ka Di-yun, admire so much. To lose at his hands, I, Ka Di-yun, don't feel wronged at all. Not one bit. Ka Di-yun gave a hearty laugh, for the bitter taste that was left in his mouth after his defeat had completely vanished. "Eldest brother, he's actually that Ming Dong." Ka Di-liangs could only stare in bafflement at Ming Dong with shining eyes. Ming Dong's achievements were extremely known to them. Not only was he an Earth Saint Master at his age, he was also in possession of a Heaven-tier battle skill that could injure even Heaven Saint Masters. His militaristic achievements had long since made him a heroic figure to be worshipped in the eyes of the two, and a goal that they both wished to reach. Ka Ki-chioli looked at Ming Dong with a flabbergasted expression as well. She didn't think that this extremely strong outsider would actually be the famous Ming Dong. Now that Headmaster Kafir had finally arrived, Jian-chen couldn't sit idly to the side any longer. Leaping onto the arena, he smiled and cupped his hands. "Headmaster Kafir, Vice Headmaster Biyao." Seeing Jian-chen, Kafir let out an excited smile. "Ha, Changyang Shengtian. From the moment I saw Ming Dong, I knew that you were here as well." Kafir eyed Biyao. "Biyao, this is the imperial protector of our Jessan kingdom and the 4th master of the Changyang clan, Changyang Shengtian. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.